Hello, your channel Eugene Light Novels greets you. I hope you are enjoying these beautiful novels. Now, let's continue with the novel, Plain, God-Level Tavern at the beginning, Raising Dragons. First part. Chapter 1, Records of Observations of New Human Beings. Yu Yi was sitting on a hill, his eyes melancholy. His messy hair, sunken eyes, yellow complexion and chapped lips all made him look like a savage. There was a small territory not far away from him. A bulletin board, a shabby thatched house, a tavern and a wooden fence surrounding it. The shaky appearance of the wooden fence did not give Yu Yi any sense of security. These are the three basic buildings that a life player can get as a lord from the Dawn system. 3 full days have passed since Blue Star was swallowed up by the boundless plane of another world. A large number of Blue Star humans of appropriate age were randomly assigned to different planes and bound to the human camp's unique Dawn system. The so-called Dawn system is a supreme creation jointly created by the 7 major human forces in the currently explored plane. It uses a series of sophisticated technologies such as time and space magic, module technology, etc. It can be called the crystallization of human wisdom. Since its launch, it has been updated to 13 versions based on important time nodes such as major technological breakthroughs and major plane events. The theme of the 1.4.0.0 version that has just been updated by Dawn system corresponds to the major plane event of Blue Star being engulfed by the boundless plane. This is the first time that the alliance formed by the 7 major human forces has observed the super event that the infinite plane engulfed the human race in the different universe. Therefore, just yesterday, this version was officially named New Human Observation Record by the Alliance Dawn Alliance Planning Team. After all, these aliens who look similar to humans and are judged as humans by the will of the plane may have extremely high research value. They will not only bring new awakening talents, but also add to the talent library of the Dawn system. Perhaps, it can also bring about many new trends in cognition, culture, technology, etc. Therefore, in order to better help their group of alien humans survive and maximize their value, the Alliance decided to bind all scattered Blue Star humans to the Dawn system so that they can adapt to the laws and order of the boundless world as soon as possible. To put it simply, the Blue Star humans have become a group of guinea pigs. Overall, the Alliance's civilization still knows how to respect privacy. All Blue Star human information and data are collected, analyzed, and judged by the Sugan system, and then passed to the upper-level leaders of the Alliance, and finally these complex data are formed into corresponding files. This is the cause and effect of the whole thing. As for the specific situation of the infinite plane, Yu Yi also had a general understanding based on the Dawn system. The boundless plane has many races, more than thousands. In the previous life, there was only one intelligent race on Blue Star, humans, and wars broke out from time to time. One can imagine what kind of situation would happen under the collision of so many races and civilizations. Infinite war is the eternal theme of The Expanse. Although the human race is one of the pinnacle ethnic groups in the explored plane, it also faces threats from the pinnacle ethnic groups such as the Zerg, orcs, demons, undead, etc. In order to prevent the mainland from falling into war, humanity has opened up the infinite battlefield response idea, which is to let the life professional players of the Alliance Trailblazer Corps be randomly dropped into a new survivable dimension, and use module technology and other methods to build extraordinary buildings, starting from a small territory. Development and construction, and finally continued to expand into a new dimension fully controlled by the human alliance. Whenever a war breaks out in an important plane, the Dawn system will consume a certain amount of space-time power and send some of the enemy troops on the front line in batches to all human stations near the plane in order to jointly resist the enemy. After the Lord's owner obtains meritorious service or mines enough dimensional resources, he can exchange the Dawn system for new extraordinary buildings to develop the territory, which forms a virtuous cycle. When the territory develops to a certain scale, merchants, mercenaries, and adventurers will come and bring a large number of people, and the territory will develop to a small scale. Of course, there are definitely not just 1 or 2 people who cannot defeat the enemy and have their territory destroyed by the enemy. Some lucky lords may be able to escape through the teleport hall, but the unlucky lords will die as a whole. In short, the Pioneer Legion has a high income, which is equivalent to owning all the development rights of a plane. But the danger is also great. If you want to develop, you must continue to resist the enemy's invasion just like in the tower defense game in your previous life. Obviously, after being swallowed up by the boundless plane, the entire Blue Star human race has been forced to become a member of the Pioneer Legion whether they like it or not. And Yu Yi is one of them. During the 3 days of time traveling, he slept and ate in the open air. When you are hungry, you eat some red berries. When you are thirsty, you go to the river to scoop some water and cook it. Fortunately, the plane he was in had luxuriant plants but not many ferocious beasts. There was also the Shuguang system illustrated book to determine the attributes of these plants. Although Yuya was having a hard time, he was still barely able to survive. After 3 days of continuous tree picking, Yuya finally submitted 50 units of wood resources to the Shuguang system in exchange for the small territory in front of him. As a pampered modern man, after these 3 days of hard work, Yuya has become this respectable person. Whenever he saw nearby combat class players in the group showing off their hunting results, Yuya couldn't help but feel envious, not only of their powerful combat prowess, but also of their ability to hunt animals. After players of the combat class were awakened by the Dawn system, they had various abilities. Some could release fireballs, like Superman, while others suddenly mastered the ability to shoot accurately and had a great time hitting birds with stones. Almost, no matter how unbearable it is, you can jump 3 feet high or become infinitely powerful. After these so-called combat class players first awaken, the Dawn system will assign them to the 12 basic extraordinary professions in the Alliance based on their awakened talent characteristics. However, the relationship between the combat class and the life class is not an either/or. The former relies on its own combat strength to survive in the endless plane, and improves itself by obtaining rewards by completing various tasks released by the Dawn system. Since the survival ability of life occupations is relatively weak, they usually choose to establish a territory, continuously exploit resources, develop the territory, and attract braves, adventurers, and mercenaries from different planes to come and take risks. After combat professions become stronger, they can also develop their own territory and seize a large amount of resources for promotion. There are many such examples in the endless plane. After the life profession develops and becomes stronger in its own territory, it can also rely on a large number of resources to strengthen its own strength, or purchase scrolls of various skills to eliminate the weaknesses in combat. The two only have different development focuses at the beginning, but in the end they reach the same goal by different paths. Yuya's awakened talent was architectural mutation, and he was recommended as a life profession, architect, by the Dawn system. He had no chance of becoming a warrior profession, so he could only become a life lord under the Dawn system. Yuya let out a long sigh and looked at the fading sky. No matter how dilapidated this territory looked, it was still a place where he would fight for the rest of his life. He trotted all the way back from the hill to the entrance of the territory, and then he tested his natural ability on the bulletin board, and a dazzling white light flashed across. A window popped up on the virtual interface of the Sugan system. Your natural ability, Building Mutation, was activated successfully. Building Mutation, this talent can randomly mutate buildings to create new functions. The more advanced the building, the lower the probability of success. Note, currently, this talent is Grade A and has a 100% success rate for Tier 1 buildings. Each use requires a 24-hour cooling time and is refreshed at midnight every day. Chapter 2 Funny Group, the first handsome guy to die. Building name, Bulletin board that waits for rabbits, mutation +1. Building level, level 1. Building area, 1 grid. Building quality, ordinary. Building life, 100 out of 100. Building materials required, 10 units of wood. Building function, 1. The Lord can post relevant announcements and release task information and important matters to all residents in the territory. Newly added, 2. You can attract a hare to take the initiative to go to the bulletin board every day and knock it unconscious in front of the bulletin board. You can actively attract a wild boar to the bulletin board every week and knock the bulletin board away. Note, it is really unreliable. If you expect it to resist wild boars, you might as well expect sows to climb trees. Yu Yi glanced at the bulletin board showing the successful mutation, and the corner of his mouth twitched slightly. What the hell kind of functions are these? However, thinking about the experience of eating red berries and blue berries from morning to night in the past 3 days, Yuya suddenly felt that this function is still very practical. At least he didn't have to eat all 7 colored berries to summon the dragon. Although Yuya occasionally saw some wild animals in the past 3 days, he had no hunting skills at all after living in a modern metropolis for a long time. He tried to catch them several times without success. With this new bulletin board, at least he can now have some fun and eat some meat. In addition to the bulletin board and fence, there are only 2 buildings left in the territory. One is the Lord's Cabin, and the other is the Time and Space Tavern. The former is where Yu sleeps, and the other is a space-time interface between the Shuguang system and all the Lord's territories. Of course, that circle of rickety wooden fences can probably be regarded as a type of architecture. If a lord wants to recruit mercenaries, laborers, slaves, etc., he needs to send requests to several surrounding time and space nodes from the Time and Space Tavern. Lords in the surrounding time and space nodes who are willing to accept the request will send quotations. Eventually a deal was struck. This kind of trade is not necessarily limited to the human race. All races can join in. Races with a little bit of strength will all have extraordinary buildings like the Time and Space Tavern. With this space-time tavern, it is like a signal beacon, giving these living planes a sound. However, in order to protect this plane from being infringed, the Time and Space Tavern and similar buildings of all races will perform the highest level of fuzzy signal processing. This is determined by the joint contract between Plane Will and World Tree. The explored plane. As long as all races in the world have transcended the plane civilization, they must abide by the rules set by these 2. It can be said that Time and Space Tavern is the most important building in every territory, bar none. Once it is destroyed, if you want to rebuild it, you will have to spend a huge price to purchase the power of time and space from the Dawn system. If you had that money, then Yu should hurry up and go to sleep. There is everything in his dreams anyway. Anyway, today's building mutation has been used up. If you want to use it again, you have to pass 0 o'clock tonight. The bored Yu lay on his bed and opened the chat group of the Dawn plane. This is a public group established by the Dawn system for all Blue Star players distributed in the 5 nearby time and space nodes. The upper right corner shows all the people in this time and space node. It shows a large group of 500 people. But at this moment, the number in the upper right corner shows 499/500. The entire group chat was exploding at the moment, with hundreds of messages flooding the screen. Sad love, who died? It's only been 3 days. Isn't this too unlucky? Secretly smell my smelly feet downstairs. Hot knowledge. Open the group interface. There is a small red dot named Expand next to it. After opening it, you can see the IDs of everyone in the entire group, whose avatar and ID are black. Well, that's who died. Flower Girl is not bothered. Luliuliu, this name smells weird. Your wife leaked air in the middle of the night. Don't be ridiculous. The dead guy is called Abstract Handsome Guy. Does anyone know who this is and what happened? Cute-faced thief, the dead, Abstract Handsome Guy. I saw him speaking in the group yesterday. It was said that he changed his job to a combat profession, night, awakened his S-level talent, and then went out and acted recklessly for 3 days. Your wife leaked air in the middle of the night, so this handsome guy was too reckless? He committed suicide? Cute-faced thief, it seems like this. Combat professionals look very majestic. They have been getting rewards from the killing missions released by the crazy liver system these days, but I didn't expect that even players with S-level talents would die accidentally. Very silly and naive. Hey, who knows if the S-level talent he awakened is just bragging? I remember yesterday, someone encouraged him to go out and fight monsters to level up to prove himself. See what the result is? Very silly and naive, so don't pretend to be fat. Sad love. Hey, it's so good to be a life player like me. Now I have just opened a territory and am getting ready to start blacksmithing. The discussion about this Abstract Handsome Guy was quickly covered by new hot topics. Lifestyle players usually start by laying down trees. Except for a few liver emperors, it takes almost 3 days for the lifestyle players to prepare 50 units of resources in exchange for territory. Time. Therefore, the lords who had completed the construction of their territories came out to make a fuss today. Even Yu Yi, who had always been quiet, came out and took a 6. Lifestyle players who chose to build territories began to explore new construction directions. This kind of construction with a high degree of freedom was not like the game in the previous life where there was a novice guide on which building was brighter. There are so many extraordinary buildings that players can choose from. Just for the 12 basic extraordinary professions, there are hundreds of extraordinary buildings to choose from. This does not include the extraordinary buildings of some niche professions, as well as private houses and plantations. Library, city hall, teleportation hall and other general extraordinary buildings. All of a sudden, everyone was dazzled by the variety of extraordinary buildings. Sad Love said that measures should be taken according to the conditions of each plane. The plane where he was born is rich in mineral resources, so he planned to build an ironsmith shop as soon as possible. When the fuel is available, he can give it to the people in the group. Make weapons. Cute-faced thief believes that certain general extraordinary buildings must be built first. It seems that she is a girl, and she actually puts public toilets as the first priority. Apparently, she has completely lost her tolerance for excreting in the open for 3 consecutive days. After all, how can a little fairy who loves cleanliness tolerate her changing size everywhere? As a diver, Yu Yi is still watching the screen silently without saying a word. With the beginnings of Sad Love and Cute-Faced Thief, many professional players began to introduce themselves, to introduce their talents and express their future development tendencies. This is actually a kind of advertisement. After all, in the future, if you want to trade with each other, it will usually be done within the group. If you really want to make a deal with a foreign race, at first, few people would have the courage. Some players claim to be growers, and are currently cultivating land. Some claim to be tailors, who can sew clothes, and some claim to be enchanters, and are preparing to work with Sad Love to create so-called enchantments arms. Yu Yi silently glanced at the heated group and turned off the system interface. Question: how should an architect sell buildings in this different world and across dimensions? Waiting online, a bit urgent. And the point is, when it comes to building a house, the system is much better than him. Chapter 3: The Cold Boss Bob. The next morning, Yu Yi got up early and saw an extra brown hair under the bulletin board for keeping pigs and waiting for rabbits at home. It was round and looked delicious. Yu Yi, who hadn't smelled the aroma of meat in 3 days, drooled from the corner of his mouth. He checked the health value on the bulletin board. It seemed that due to the hair attack, the original health value of 100 points had dropped to 99 points. Once the health or durability reaches 0, the building will be completely destroyed. In other words, if another 100 hairs stun the bulletin board, it will be destroyed. Well, it probably won't take 100 days. The building panels of the Shuguang system have already made it clear. On the 7th day, a wild boar will hit the bulletin board. He already felt that this poor bulletin board would never see the sun on the 7th day. Let him set a trap and take the initiative to catch the wild boar. Save your money, don't let the sow boar overwhelm you as a juicy little cabbage. Yu Ye will take a bath, burn incense and worship Buddha for 3 days. 6 hairs, in exchange for a bulletin board with 10 units of consumables, this business feels like a loss no matter how you calculate it. This is the reason why Yu Ye's talent can only be rated as A by the Dawn system. The randomness of the mutation is too great. A change in a good direction may be called a magical skill. A change in a mediocre direction can be tolerated, but if it changes in an outrageous direction, it will really be a scam. Yu Yi touched his chin and began to calculate the gains and losses of the game, but soon his thoughts turned to the brown rabbit in his hand. Is it better to make roast rabbit or make it into jerky? He turned off the system interface, licked his lips, picked up the unconscious rabbit by its ears, and gave himself an extra meal without hesitation. Although rabbits are very cute, they are not as cute as their own bellies. Then I can only sacrifice the little brown rabbit who is not as cute as my belly. Please die. After eating and drinking enough, Yu Yi came to the little broken tavern with a confident belly, and activated his natural ability at the Time and Space Tavern, without hesitation. Immediately, a ray of orange light rose in front of him. Building name, Bob's Time and Space Tavern, mutation +1. Building level, level 1. Building area, 4 grids. Building quality, legend. Building life, 2500 plus 1000. Building materials required, presented by Sugan system for the first time. Building function, 1. The Lord can issue tasks to all planes within the 5 nearby time and space nodes through the Time and Space Tavern, and interested buyers will make offers until a deal is reached. 2. The Time and Space Tavern can also temporarily open passages to other planes for the Lord personally, but it cannot function as a building, teleportation hall. Newly added, 3. NPC bartender Bob has been added to the tavern. He will assist the Lord in completing all the work in the Time and Space Tavern. Newly added, for Bob will develop new wines every once in a while, and these wines will attract guests from the endless planes to come to the tavern to trade and pay a corresponding amount of wine money. Orange light flashed past, and a figure suddenly appeared in the rather shabby tavern. His forehead was bright, he was wearing a green vest, and his eyes were slightly aged. He glanced at Yu Yi with a rather melancholy look, just nodded to Yu Yi without saying a word, and then entered the door of the Time and Space Tavern. Pound. NPC Bob slammed the door shut. Shipped. He actually relied on his talent, architectural mutation, to build a building of legendary quality. Yu Yi didn't react at all to the shock of a person suddenly appearing in front of him, and then he realized belatedly that he had actually shipped the goods. This is simply the possession of the European Emperor. He checked on the Dawn system panel and found that Bob's character status was not displayed in the system. This means that Bob in the Time and Space Tavern is not a real person, but is somewhat similar to an intelligent NPC in an online game in his previous life. In this way, the more Yu Yi looked at this Bob, the more he looked like the bartender Bob in the battle mode of the game Hearthstone, in Blue Star. The same bright forehead, the same saucy green vest, the cold and melancholy eyes, the thick beard and the strong arms. Yu Yi had no doubt that this NPC could kill him 10 times with one punch. Bob's special of today, Tears of Amber, Treasure. Bite. Tears of Amber has been put on the shelves in all planes of the 5 nearby time and space nodes, and 358 customers have bid for it. According to the highest bidder rule. This transaction was successful. You have obtained a young Earth Dragon. Yu Yi was shocked. In such a short time, he got a baby Earth Dragon? What kind of wine is this Amber Tears? Are NPCs so useful? He ran through several questions in his mind, and in the end he could only give a thumbs up and angrily praised, nice. It is indeed a legendary first-order extraordinary building of the highest quality. His talent is obviously not as simple as the Dawn system said, only a level. If you look at the face, this is definitely an existence that can reach the SSS level. Thinking like this, the door of the dilapidated tavern suddenly opened, and a melancholy-looking Bob held a cute little dragon cub in his arms. He threw the little dragon cub out without any pity, drawing a beautiful line in the sky. Arc. After throwing it away, he patted his green vest calmly, as if it was stained with something dirty. The muscles on his bronze arms bulged, making him look very untouchable. Then, there was another heavy slam on the door. The little dragon cub fluttered its short limbs in the air, its big eyes full of panic. Yu Yi hurriedly trotted and stretched out his hand towards the landing point. As a result, one person and one dragon fell to the ground together, leaving a dog chewing on the mud. The little dragon cub's big eyes were filled with tears, as if he was about to cry in the next second. Yu Yi also grimaced in pain, but still hugged it into his arms immediately. But with Yu Yi's comfort, the little dragon cub immediately stopped crying and fussing, rubbed Yu Yi's palm comfortably, looked at Yu Yi with a pair of innocent big eyes, sniffed left and right, and flowed out unknowingly. Saliva. The corners of Yu Yi's mouth twitched. Does this little guy want to eat himself? He hadn't taken a shower for 3 days, so maybe he was pickled up. In order not to become the meal of the giant dragon cub, Yu Yi suddenly felt oppressed. Originally, one person in his territory had enough to eat, and the whole family was not hungry. As a result, the plan failed to keep up with the changes, and a future super-eating king suddenly appeared in the territory. Not to mention one wild rabbit every day, 10 more won't be enough. Yuya looked through the territory construction plans in the Shuguang system and felt that it was urgent to establish pastures, planting farms, and livestock breeding. Fortunately, according to the introduction of Shuguang system, the Earth Dragon is an Earth attribute dragon and seems to be omnivorous. In other words, it can eat soil, eat grass. In the end, Yu Yi, who was extremely troubled in his heart, gave up such a devilish idea. Even though Yu Yi is a blue star person and is not a native of the human race of the boundless plain, he still knows how precious the race of giant dragons is. Not to mention that this is a baby dragon that can be cultivated as a pet. He can't treat it badly. Chapter 4 Xiaolong successfully sold himself. In order to solve the problem of livelihood, Yuya opened the territory planning interface version of Shuguang system. After generating the surrounding topographic map, he quickly delineated a suitable location for placing a plantation farm. Building name, planting farm. Building level, level 1. Building area, 10 squares. Building quality, ordinary. Building life, 200 out of 200. Building materials required, 200 units of wood, 100 units of soil, and 10 units of ore. Building functions, 1. Breed fertile land, which can grow more than 10 kinds of common crops in the farm. 2. Accelerate crop growth by 80%. The area occupied by the new building is almost the same as that of Yuya's entire territory. The plain where Yuya is located has many trees. With 200 units of wood, he doesn't need to worry at all. The soil near the river is also plentiful, the only trouble is 10 units of any ore. This should be used to build various agricultural tools in the planting farm, but unfortunately, in the past few days when Yuya measured the land with his feet, he did not find any relevant ores nearby. Looks like I need to find someone to trade with. Yuya opened the systems group, found the private chat interface of Sad Love, and sent a message. He vaguely remembered that this ID was extremely active in the group yesterday, and the plane he was born in had extremely abundant ore resources. Ikuya Hano, brother, do you have any ore? Sad customs clearance, it's a joke, how can a blacksmith not have ore? What kind do you want? Ikuya Hano, what do you want to exchange for? Do you want the hair? Sad relationship, brother, I see you are a life player, and you can actually hunt. What did you do when you were in Blue Star? Sad to clear customs, let's not talk nonsense, my plane is full of various mines that are exposed on the surface. Although the plants that grow are edible, they are all bitter and difficult to swallow. To be honest, I haven't eaten meat for many days. Ikuya Hano, how about 1 hair plus 3 units of berries in exchange for 5 units of ore? For 2 days in a row. Sad relationship, deal. Without further ado, Yuya posted the relevant task in his Time and Space Tavern. Sad Love quickly found Yuya's task through the tavern there, chose to accept it, and made an appointment for the two of them tomorrow. Make a transaction. After doing all this, Yuya was ready to go out to collect supplies. Bob in the tavern had been carefully wiping the wooden wine glass without even looking at Yuya. Yu Yi, who was shocked by his cold NPC, left obediently and silently, taking away the little dragon cub who was playing beside him. With nothing in his hands, he still had to rely on his little dragon cub to pull down the tree. Little guy, where did you come from? Yu Yi stretched out his fingers to tease the baby earthly dragon, which was lying on its back with its belly exposed, and asked curious questions in his mouth. Naturally, the little dragon cub didn't understand Yuya's words, and thought he was playing with him. He stretched out a paw to grab Yuya's finger, and screamed, "Chirp." Its current size is about the size of a small puppy in Blue Star. Although it looks majestic, its eyes are cute and its lethality is still full. It's so cute that it melts my boy's heart. Yuya picked it up, rubbed it hard, and then carried it to the woods on the outskirts of the territory to start tree picking. The trees here are dense, but they are not the types on Blue Star. Perhaps because they have grown in an environment full of star power for a long time, the material is unexpectedly strong. Wood is one of the basic materials in large demand in the Sugan system. At this moment, Yuya needs to collect a full 200 units of wood, which is one of the necessary conditions to redeem the planting farm module from the Dawn system. He couldn't help but feel a headache. In the past 3 days, he had to dig out 50 units of trees to build the territory. His back ached and he looked like a savage. How should he build 200 units now? Yuyi, who was having a headache, suddenly shifted his gaze and placed it on the baby terrestrial dragon at his feet who was tearing at his trouser legs with his baby teeth. At this moment, there is a dragon plane 5 spacetime node units away from the Yuya plane. A group of young and strong dragon attendants were walking through a huge underground palace. They searched every corner with anxious faces, but still could not find the figure they were looking for. Your Highness 19th? Your Highness 19? The dragon attendants searched separately and called loudly, but found nothing. The Lord's favorite 19th Highness still disappeared into the underground palace out of thin air. There are many branching roads in the underground palace, like a maze. If an outsider breaks in, they may be able to tell the difference or even step into a trap. But for these dragon servants who have grown up in the underground palace, they can't go wrong even if they walk with their eyes closed. The only thing they were worried about was that His Highness 19th, who was just 2 months old, had escaped from his room and broke into the underground palace by neglecting the guards. If they fall into some dangerous traps, even Manager Leia may not have the authority to successfully rescue them. But after searching the entire underground palace, all the dragon servants became completely panicked. If His Highness 19th Prince had fallen into a trap, then with Manager Leia here, it would not be a big disaster. At most, he would only receive some punishment. But the problem now is that His Highness has disappeared. The nature of the problem suddenly became several degrees more serious. What should we do, Manager Leia? We have searched the entire underground palace, but we have not found His Highness 19th. When the Lord and his wife come back from the party in the 5-source dragon realm, we will all be executed. A dragon attendant fell to the ground helplessly. He kept muttering words such as, "It's over," and "I'm going to die," as if he had completely fallen into despair. He is a dragon attendant outside the palace of His Highness 19th Prince. If the disappearance of His Highness 19th Highness is to be investigated, he will definitely not be able to escape the involvement. Not only him, but the entire Dragon Guard team was filled with a sad atmosphere. The Earth Dragon King Loganus of the Earth Origin Dragon Realm is not as kind-hearted as other Earth attribute dragons, but has a rare hot temper. The anger of a legendary dragon was not something anyone present could bear. The steward named Leia did not panic, but pushed aside everyone and entered the palace of His Highness 19th Prince. Suddenly, he focused his eyes and found a crystal ball left on the ground. This crystal ball is a tool for transactions between the Dragon Clan and other planes in the Infinite Plane. At this moment, the trading crystal ball is still on the "transaction completed" interface. After Leia opened the order information and discovered that the item being auctioned was called Amber Tears, her golden dragon eyes shrank slightly. He had roughly guessed what was going on. Their 19th Highness, who was only 2 months old, successfully sold himself for the cup of Amber Tears. Chapter 5 Let's Roll the Tree, Little Dragon Cub. Yuya carried the little dragon cub in his arms to the woods closest to the territory. In the first 3 days, he successfully created a not-too-sharp weapon through the collected stones and wood blocks and the synthesis of the Dawn system. Stone Axe. This kind of axe can only chop down some trees as thick as a bowl. It cannot chop down slightly thicker trees, and it can easily cause the durability value of the stone axe to decrease. Once the wear reaches a certain level, the durability value of the stone axe will be cleared to 0. Totally broken. The process of cutting down trees was boring and tedious. After about a whole morning, Yuya had cut down less than 50 units of wood. On the other hand, the little dragon cub on the other side had a lot to gain. This little guy watched Yuyi continue to chop down the tree with an axe, and also learned to use his own body to arch the tree. At first, Yuya was prepared to see it as a joke, but what he didn't expect was that after just the 3rd push, a tree thicker than his waist broke directly from the roots, and the entire tree, which was more than 10 meters high, collapsed. Turned into 10 units of wood. You know? Looking at the little dragon cub approaching him with a flattering look on his face, Yuya touched his head, and then pointed to another tree of similar size. The little dragon cub tilted his head and looked at it, then spread out his 4 short legs and rushed over. Bang! 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 Several trees fell down and exploded one after another, and were absorbed by Yuya using the Dawn system. In an instant, the wood reached 100 units. Yuya hugged the little dragon cub back with a loving face and opened the system's properties panel. Name: Juvenile Earth Dragon, unnamed. Race: Dragon. Attribute: Earth. Level: Level 1. Status: Tameable. HP: 5500/5500. Strength: 20, plus. Spirit: 5. Agility: 11. Physique: 20, plus. Charm: 8. Lucky: 3. Racial talent: 1 Earth Walker. When the local walking dragon steps on the earth, it will gain a steady stream of power, and its strength attributes and physical attributes will be at the max of the same level. 2 Source of the earth. After an earth dragon is injured, as long as it steps on the earth, it will continuously absorb source energy from the earth to restore its own health. 3 Earth Sensing. The earth dragon can emit seismic waves to sense all living and non-living movements within the range of the waveform. For dragon language magic, the earth dragon learns earth magic based on blood inheritance. The inheritance of this magic will be gradually unlocked with the strength of the earth dragon. The dragon clan is indeed one of the strongest races in the Endless Plane. Even newborn cubs have such terrifying strength. Whether it is his physique and strength that exceed the full value, or his extremely powerful 4 racial talents, nothing can be compared to Yuya. Yuya glanced at his attribute panel with a wry smile. The 6-dimensional attributes were all 9 points, as if agreed upon, but there was only one talent: architectural mutation. Compared with the attribute panel of this little dragon cub, it is simply rubbish. Of course, the only thing that Ikuno deserves praise for is his luck attribute. The initial attribute of 9 points is still very high. It is said that the luck attribute is the most difficult to increase among all attributes. What should I call you? Yuya rubbed the triangular head of the dragon and asked with a smile. Looking at how domineering you are, why don't we just call you Big Mac? Big Mac held his head high and seemed to like the new name very much. With the addition of Big Mac, the progress of tree planting has obviously accelerated a lot. By night, Yuya had collected 200 units of wood. He also collected 10 units of berries for trading and consumption. The new day passed quickly. Early the next morning, after Yuya opened his eyes and got up from his small room, he immediately went to the bulletin board for waiting for pigs and rabbits. As expected, there was already a fainted hare under the bulletin board, and not surprisingly, the health value of the bulletin board was reduced a bit. After completing the transaction in the Time and Space Tavern, with 1 hare, 3 units of berries and, sad love, Yuno harvested 5 units of ore. As long as he completes one more transaction, he can collect all the raw materials to build the planting farm. The cooldown time of his talent, Building Transformation, has expired again. This time he renovated the small fence that surrounded the territory. This kind of unreliable-looking fence really couldn't bring a sense of security to Yuya. Building name: Sword Thorn Fence, mutation +1. Building level: Level 1. Building quality: excellent. Building life: 200 +50. Building materials required: 10 units of wood/meter, 1 unit of swordthorn seeds. Building functions: 1. Enclose the territory to avoid wild boar and other wild beasts. Newly added: 2. Planting sword spines on the fence can quickly catalyze the sword spines that can withstand collisions. Each unit of fence can be attached with 1 unit of sword spines. Note: when the fence is hit by melee damage such as impact, it will give the enemy 100 health points/time of rebound damage, with a slight paralysis toxin. Each fence can only withstand a maximum of 5 attacks. The output of Building Mutation this time is average, but it is also more protective than the previous fence. As for the seeds of sword thorn, Yuya found this plant through the systematic illustration when he was collecting berries in the jungle. This plant can grow around the fence like a vine, with slender sword-like thorns. Once it pierces the enemy, it will inject a slight venom, amplifying the pain and making the enemy miserable. It is still very easy to collect the seeds of sword thorn from the jungle, you just have to be a little careful. Since the farm defined by Yuno was not within his current small territory, he had to build a sword thorn fence around the farm. Today is obviously another day for tree laying. Yuya grabbed Big Mac's head and rushed towards the jungle. The confused Big Mac shook his head and hit the trees one after another. The small body and the huge trees form a huge contrast. Yuyi followed behind and collected wood crazily, smiling from ear to ear. Wood plus 20. Wood plus 15. Wood plus 33. A series of numbers flashed across the system panel, while the instigator was jumping around happily, knocking over all the nearby trees. An earth-walking dragon with the source of the earth talent will not feel tired at all. As long as it keeps stepping on the earth, it will continuously feel the power given by the earth. Soon, in this area, except for trees that can produce useful berries and a large number of sword thorns, all the surrounding trees have been cleared by the earth-walking dragon. Yuya glanced at the panel that had already harvested thousands of units of wood, and felt a little emotional. With this efficiency of tree rolling, how can other players compete with each other? Chapter 6, On-Site Live Broadcast, the Era of National Live Broadcast. Klein Plain, Human Alliance Plane Management Bureau. Bai Xiao carried a small black backpack and squeezed out of the speeding train. She wore thick black-rimmed glasses and walked into the gate of the plane administration with dull eyes. The Klein plane was discovered by the Star Sea Federation in the human camp nearly 100 years ago and was officially incorporated into the human camp. Before being discovered by the Star Sea Federation, the Klein people were still in the budding stage of technology. As a plane that mainly focuses on technology, other extraordinary professions are far less developed than machinist. Especially after integrating with the Human Federation, which is also good at mechanics, machinist has completely overshadowed other extraordinary professions. But these have nothing to do with Bai Xiao. She is just an ordinary person whose talent is rated P level. The so-called P level is a star power talent that is lower than the lowest level F level talent, which means nothing. Ordinary people like her are the norm in the Klein plane. At least 80% of Klein people have P-level talents. They are born to be a type of people who are not needed and can be replaced by anyone. Work and life seemed hopeless. Bai Xiao took out the access card and headed to the 13th underground floor expressionlessly. The whole level of positions below are all held by ordinary people with P-level talents like her. The elevator moved down quickly without encountering any obstacles along the way, reaching the 13th underground floor. The elevator door slowly opened. Outside the door were a few colleagues who had just finished the night shift. Some of them looked familiar but couldn't remember their names. They yawned and got on the elevator. They nodded to Bai Xiao and left quickly. After getting rid of these useless social interactions, Bai Xiao walked through the huge studios and headed to his workstation. It was an inconspicuous little corner, covering an area of less than 2 square meters. There is a special optical brain of the Plane Management Bureau on it, which is directly connected to the Dawn system. Ordinary people like her only have the right to use it, but not ownership. Although the cost of the Dawn system is not as high as it once was, it is definitely not something that an ordinary person in the Klein plane can afford. As a result, the optical brain was born, a photonic product that is even more emasculated than the emasculated Dawn system. Bai Xiao opened the optical computer on the workbench and logged into the only interface that could be operated. 96 split screens were switched in front of her, and the photon screen switched back and forth, exuding fascinating light and shadow. She stretched out her hand and flicked it back and forth on the photon screen, and different pictures suddenly appeared on the 96 split screens. On the pictures, figures hiding their true faces were busy doing their own things in the day or night. Bai Xiao randomly clicked on an interface to enlarge it, and began to watch it boredly. She stretched out her hand, took out a pack of snacks from the drawer, and ate them one by one. In the interface, there is a woman who looks very young. Her face is very beautiful, but if you look closely, you will find that there is an obvious disharmony in her expression. She was playing with the soil on a small farm, burying the fresh-looking seeds into the pits. This pit is relatively deep, and she obviously spent a lot of effort. She wiped the sweat from her forehead and accidentally rubbed her muddy hand on her face, leaving a deep brown mark. But she was so busy that she didn't realize it. Oh, she's still a beauty. Suddenly, a barrage came from the live broadcast room. Hey, is this your first time watching a live broadcast upstairs? Don't you know that live broadcasts without my authorization are not allowed to reveal people's true faces? Our observation record is an unauthorized live broadcast. This face it was obviously generated by the Dawn system. Learned. There were only 2 people in this live broadcast room. Bai Xiao was watching directly from the background and was not included in the number of people. These 2 people, one is obviously a newcomer and the other is an old man who often watches live broadcasts, and they actually started talking to each other even though they were separated from each other. Brother, what does the 14.0 version of Sugan system update mean? Didn't there be a live broadcast function before? What is the change this time? Another quickly answered, the theme of this version update is called, New Human Observation Record. It means that we are going to see these alien humans who have just been absorbed into the boundless plane and got our Dawn system. How will we open up the plane and resist the enemy in the future? In the past, live broadcasts of extraordinary people building territories and building extraordinary buildings were not open to us ordinary people. This time we have got a bonus, and we will even have the opportunity to see the scenes of frontline battles in the future. After a while, a message continued to be sent over there. Let's just say, why do they all have a Sugan system, but we can only squat at home and watch the live broadcast? A Sugan system is worth a lot of money. Soon, new text appeared, answering the question, brother, this account cannot be settled so easily. First of all, if these people from other worlds arrive so suddenly and don't provide some help, they will probably die immediately. This is not in line with the highest concept of mutual aid for mankind of our people's federation. Secondly, there are tens of billions of people in this group. Even if you exclude infants, young children and the elderly, there are still nearly 7 billion people. If these people join the Pioneer Army, won't the number of people from our planes decrease? Isn't the Dawn system equipped with this equipment equivalent to buying life money? Do you really think those Zerg, demon, undead, and orcs are just joking? If it is really so easy to create a powerful extraordinary territory to defend the human race, why are there so many casualties every year? And just yesterday, the first data released by the Dawn system came out. The talent probability of 7 billion aliens is 99.999%. It is equivalent to all extraordinary people. Now many people on the internet are saying that these people from other worlds may have been favored by the will of the plane and given blessings. Otherwise, such an outrageous awakening rate would not be possible. This person has an obvious desire to talk and quickly spreads the information he has. To sum up, it roughly means the same thing. These aliens have great potential. We natives will have a system. We can hide in the live broadcast room and observe carefully to see how other aliens do. If we can learn, we will learn, and if we can improve, we will improve. New Humanity Observation Record, doesn't it mean that all the people are watching the live broadcast? Not to mention, not only are many private forums offering rewards to summarize the behavior patterns of Blue Star people, but even the officialdom seems to be ready to make similar moves. Oh, I understand. I learned it again. The other person was fed by the food, a little full, and began to digest slowly. The only 2 people in the live broadcast room were writing short articles eloquently. Bai Xiao was watching with great interest. She had just turned 20 and had never experienced a major version update event before, so she was witnessing history. She just followed the instructions from above and did whatever work she had to do. At the beginning, when she learned that 7 billion Blue Star people had Dawn systems, she did have unfair thoughts and felt very unbalanced. She has worked hard all her life, but she may not be able to afford a Sugan system. Why should the People's Federation give it to these 7 billion people from other worlds? But after the Big Brother's on-demand broadcast in the live broadcast room, she realized that she only saw the benefits side, but ignored the risks behind it. If the prerequisite for the Dawn system is to join the Pioneer Legion, then Bai Xiao will definitely not be happy with it. Just seeing the pictures of the Zerg made her so sick that she couldn't eat lunch, let alone face them personally and defeat them. If you're not careful, you'll be swamped by bugs. Thinking about it this way, she felt that her current life of eating and waiting to die was pretty good. Although I don't have any big dreams, it is always a stable and peaceful life. After watching this live broadcast room for a while, the beautiful anchor was weeding and digging holes in the extraordinary building, planting farm. It was a bit novel at first, but as time went by, the only two viewers became they almost lost interest and left the live broadcast room one after another. Seeing this, Bai Xiao swiped his hand on the photon screen, and another interface switched over. The live broadcast in this dimension is much more lively than before. Messages flashed quickly on the screen, and in just such a short time, the number of comments exceeded 100. As the backstage manager, Bai Xiao's eyes suddenly lit up. She looked at the title of the live broadcast room and saw that it was a weird ID named Ikuya Hano. There were currently 249 viewers. It can be regarded as the top 3 live streaming rooms in the current batch of traffic pools. She immediately shook her hands, first increased the weight of this live broadcast room, and then chose to pin it to the top for traffic. This is her job, adding traffic packages to promising anchors, giving recommendations, etc. She not only wants to watch the Blue Star people, but also always pay attention to the local pioneers. The population of 7 billion seems to be a lot, but in the infinite plane, it is just the number of splashes dropped into a lake to make a sound. The focus of her work is still to focus on the local area. After filling up the data package, Bai Xiao Kai enlarged the live broadcast room and started watching and reviewing. Chapter 7, Is there anyone in charge? Someone is abusing the little dragon cub. As soon as he clicked on the live broadcast screen, Bai Xiao spit out a mouthful of snacks. What the hell? What did she see? Is that a dragon cub? And he's still bumping into trees mindlessly? Its owner, a handsome young man whose face has been changed by the live broadcast room system, is sitting lazily on a wooden post, drinking tea and blowing the breeze, so comfortable. With a wave of his hand, the baby earth dragon, which was definitely no more than 2 months old, spread its hooves and ran wildly, knocking down all the trees along the road in the direction he pointed. Although Bai Xiao is just an ordinary person, in this era of information explosion, anything can be queried on the Shuguang system. Most questions will have answers, if not answers. So congratulations, you will become rich overnight. Filling in the knowledge base of Dawn system with new encyclopedia knowledge will be rewarded with a large number of contribution points. This is why plane development is extremely dangerous, but so many people still do it. After all, money is what moves people's hearts. There are always those strange worlds in the boundless plane, or they contain mysterious laws, or they have strange world styles and specialties, or they have never before seen races and energies. Even if you just discover one of them, there are already many rewards. And with so much knowledge filled by brave men, most of the knowledge in the explored planes can be searched from the Dawn system. Although most of these and other ordinary people on the optical network have never seen other extraordinary races with their own eyes, they have never eaten pork or seen a pig running. Information about various alien races, including attributes, abilities, talents, and characteristics at each stage, will basically be entered into the extraordinary database as long as they are discovered, captured, and hunted by humans. They couldn't tell which of the two extraordinary creatures was stronger, so they had to rely on the evaluation values of the Dawn system to compete. On today's optical network, who is not a strong king who herds dragons, fights Zerg, punches orcs, and kicks demons in the mouth? But to be able to raise dragon cubs like puppies, only the top richest person in the world has this ability. And, this is just strength. It means you can afford it, but you may not be able to buy it. Dragon cubs are not something you can just buy if you want. As a peak group that protects its shortcomings, giant dragons are not as numerous in number as other peak groups, but the strength of any single individual is terrifying to the extreme. This is a racial talent that others cannot envy. Bai Xiao looked numbly at the live broadcast room, where he saw the alien who had obviously trained the dragon as a puppy. Who can tell her who this is? Why can I pick up a dragon cub on the third day after traveling to the infinite plane? 666, is this really a dragon cub? It looks so cute. Upstairs, you won't be cute when it knocks you away. Haven't you seen what happened to those poor trees? Good guy, are all the aliens so ferocious? In the first 3 days, it's just a baby dragon. If it develops for a few more days, won't it turn into a mature dragon? Funny face. Brother. Although the awakening rate of aliens is 99.999%, there are definitely few people like this guy who is so European. Is he not a summoning talent? I decided to pay attention. I hope to always pay attention to the development of his territory. The potential is definitely great. How can you say it has great potential? I just checked the extraordinary database. This dragon cub, which is just 2 months old, has a first-level double max in strength and physique. It is higher than the 18 points of an ordinary earth-moving dragon cub. Having more than one level, this is definitely the potential to become king in the future. Doesn't anyone care about what he is doing? He is letting the little dragon cub hit the tree. Does anyone care that such a precious creature hits the tree? Isn't this just pure abuse? Okay. I would mind if you call the police. Yes, the Federal Dragon Protection Association urgently needs your joining. The irony upstairs is great. Didn't you see that Xiaolong was having a lot of fun by himself? Bai Xiao glanced at the barrage in the live broadcast room for a while. After she pinned the live broadcast room, the traffic in the entire live broadcast room jumped slightly. In just such a short time, more than 350 people have watched it at the same time. If 1,000 people can watch at the same time in a short period of time, then the live broadcast room with the ID name, Ikuya Hano, will be promoted to a new traffic pool for further competition. Bai Xiao doesn't know whether the competition will be successful in the future, but this round of bottom PK is basically stable. Bai Xiao rubbed her palms together excitedly. As a backstage staff member of Discover, the live broadcast room under her hands became popular, and her salary would also rise. The Klein plane can only receive the live broadcasts of all the Pioneer Legions within the 5 nearby time and space nodes. In other words, Ikuya Hano is near the Klein plane. However, all spacetime channels within the 5 spacetime nodes may connect countless planes, and each channel is subject to changes in time and space at any time, so it is still extremely difficult to locate Ikuya Hano. The Shuguang system is powerful here. Even if it cannot locate the position of Ikuya Hano, it can continue to give out signals and amplify the radiation range. If this live broadcast room really becomes a big hit one day, Sugan system will provide a plug-in to enhance the signal, so that Ikuya Hano, the live broadcast is spread to more distant human planes, so that humans other than Klein's plane can also watch. At that time, it will be considered the real top level. She quietly clasped her hands together and prayed silently to the happy-looking blue star man in the live broadcast. Whether she, Bai Xiao, can become rich overnight depends on whether you can become popular. In the end, Ikuya Hano's live broadcast had 1,126 online viewers at the same time, successfully advancing to the next round of traffic pool. Not long after, the live broadcast room that had reached its full live broadcast time automatically terminated the live broadcast, and the people in the live broadcast room dispersed one by one. For things that may reveal the personal abilities of the host in the live broadcast room, or anything that is absolutely private, the live broadcast room will directly deal with it. Yes, the Sugan system is so smart. Do you think the supreme creation of human intelligence is a joke? So if you want to watch a live broadcast of a beauty taking a bath, it is absolutely impossible. New Humanity Observation Record. The scope of this live observation version is still mainly in daily life, building extraordinary buildings, and planning territories. After the traffic reaches a certain level, Sugan system will formally initiate a live broadcast contract with these observation objects through the back-end management personnel, and they will decide independently whether they need to continue the live broadcast and when they should live broadcast. If Bai Xiao wants to make big money, he has to wait until this step. As long as Ikuya Hano signs the treaty, she will transform into a manager and fully represent all the rights and interests of Ikuya, an outsider, in the human alliance. And Yu Yi, who was still in the woods directing the little dragon cubs to pull up trees, naturally had no idea that his actions had been broadcast in full by the plane live broadcast. He looked at the 2,000 units of wood in his system backpack, and finally grabbed the Big Mac that was eager to hit the tree. Timber resources are already abundant, and in the bulldozed woods, there is a bare patch of trees, all the results of an afternoon of Big Mac. Below are many shrubs and plants with strange shapes, some of which even the Dawn system could not completely identify. He submitted pictures of some strange plants for identification. If it is confirmed that it is a plant that is not in the system encyclopedia knowledge base, Yu Ye's identification will receive a gold coin as a reward for the discovery of new species. If you can study other functions and effects of these plants, supplement this part of the new species knowledge, and submit physical objects for support, you can continue to receive a research reward. It is indeed a very user-friendly system. But what Yu Ye wants to do now is to find the sword thorns from these remaining shrubs, and then carefully peel off their seeds. This is what he needs for the extraordinary building, sword thorn fence, that he mutated. Fortunately, this needle-shaped plant, which looks like a small sword, is still very conspicuous among all the plants, and Yu Ye found it without much effort. Chapter 8. This is a sword thorn, I didn't let you play with it. The seeds of the sword spine are wrapped in many small sword-like leaves. As long as these leaves sting a living creature, they will inject paralysis toxin to bring about paralysis. As for removing its seeds, it was indeed a technical job. Even though Yu Yi was very careful, he still accidentally stung him twice. The feeling of being stabbed is very subtle. Like an electric current flowing through his meridians, Yu Ye's body suddenly stiffened and he fell weakly to the ground. The amplified pain came and he instantly started foaming at the mouth. After about 30 seconds, he got over the soreness and stood up with weak legs. A long time passed before Yu Yi was able to take out more than a dozen seeds. But in the process, he had already fallen flat several times. The little dragon cub on the side thought that Yu Yi was secretly playing some new type of game, so he didn't tell it. It sniffed Yu Yi, who was foaming at the mouth. Then it took on the momentum of hitting a tree and rushed towards the sword spine without hesitation. A large number of sword-shaped leaves penetrated its soft skin. The two big eyes of the earth-walking dragon suddenly narrowed, and large tears fell one by one. It pulled out the leaves with great difficulty, and fell to the ground stiffly. Apparently, he also experienced the terrifying effect of amplified pain. Yu Yi looked at the dozen seeds in his hand and his face froze. With this seed, it is obviously impossible to transform all the fences surrounding the entire territory into sword thorn fences. In other words, he has to continue collecting. And Yu Yi suddenly realized that he seemed to have underestimated the role of this sword thorn fence. Although this extraordinary building is only rated as excellent by the Dawn system, it is definitely something that cannot be underestimated among one-star buildings. With the pain he had just experienced personally, the damage of this sword spine may not be very high, but the terrifying pain amplification effect alone is definitely not something that a first-level creature can endure. This is not a matter of physical fitness. Didn't you see that the little dragon cub with a physical fitness level of 20 points also suffered huge pain? If you get hit once, you have to stand still for 30 seconds, and a sword thorn fence can take up to 5 hits. If all the fences around Yuya are replaced by sword thorn fence, then the sense of security is instantly plus 10,086. For your own safety, you must collect them. Long-term pain is worse than short-term pain. Yu Yi gritted his teeth, and with the determination of a brave man to die, he stretched out his claws towards the small sword-like leaves. Then the next second, he pinched a seed and collapsed on the ground gorgeously, with stars in his eyes and his mouth gushing foam. The little dragon cub glanced at Yu Ye's fearless spirit and was immediately deeply moved. A pair of big eyes showed perseverance and determination that was not suitable for his 2-month-old age. It gritted its baby teeth and rushed over with all its strength. Then he fell down next to his master equally gorgeously. Ha ha ha, you're going to laugh me to death. Is this the so-called love that belongs to its owner? Is there really someone who desperately wants to grab the sword thorn with his bare hands? Although this plant is not very lethal, its characteristic, pain, is quite famous among first-order spiritual plants. Are all people from other worlds so reckless? I don't understand this anchor's brain circuit. Why do you want to pick these sword spines? In the early stage of the development of extraordinary territory, this thing is neither edible nor has any other uses. Yuawua, my little dragon is so pitiful. Bai Xiao looked at the live broadcast room of Ikuya Hano, who was starting to gain popularity again, with a happy face. This is the good effect of the wave of traffic packets in the morning. It won more live broadcast time for Yuya, and then he made another live broadcast appearance. As soon as the broadcast started this time, 50 people rushed into the live broadcast room. They were obviously old fans who had followed it since watching it. Later, many people entered the live broadcast room, and they first played a round of F***K to show their respect. After all, it is extremely rare to see a giant dragon in this new human observation record. Even though it was just a cub that was less than 2 months old, its adorable appearance also won the hearts of many female fans. Lulu, I just came back from a live broadcast room. The anchor built 3 planting farms at once, which made me feel numb. I wanted to change the live broadcast room to get some fresh air, but the European emperor here wanted me to poke your eyes. 3 planting farms, this is the awakening of the extraordinary profession, druid. But in such a short period of time, so many trees are planted, and the aliens are so diligent. Hey, stop talking. Is 3 planting farms a lot? It's only 600 units of wood. I watched this anchor use a baby dragon to roll trees this morning, and he produced at least 2,000 units of wood. Then this one is even more heavyweight. The atmosphere in the live broadcast room was very happy, but Yu Yi was in agony. He took out the seeds and was pricked, foaming at the mouth. Then he took the seeds again, was pricked again, and foamed at the mouth again. If it weren't for the increase in seeds in his hand, he might have mistakenly thought that he had entered a cycle. Again and again, again and again. Yu Yi has lost count of the times. Taking the seeds and then being pierced seems to have become a physiological instinct, a mechanical movement, and the cycle repeats. Suddenly this time, he did not fall down and foam at the mouth, but continued to take out a seed. 2 golden fonts suddenly appeared in his already blurry vision. You have mastered the passive skill, Pain Blocking LV1. Your pet, Big Mac, has learned the passive skill, Slight Paralysis Immunity LV1. Then, Yu Yi and Xiao Long Zai, who couldn't hold on any longer, collapsed to the ground with their eyes dimmed. In the live broadcast room far away in Klein's Plain, 666 was written all over the screen, and someone even directly rewarded 1,000 contribution points. 520 little stars were written. Oh my god. Is this a skill learned during a live broadcast? It's the first time in my life that I've seen someone learn a skill in this live broadcast room. Woo-hoo-hoo, it's the first time it's gone. Well, it's also the first time to gather here. This flying barrage quickly received 50 likes at the speed of light, and is still increasing. Do you want to be so awesome? Live broadcast to understand skills? Such high-end operations are really easy to come by. I feel like I'm here to make up the numbers. Is there any scientific basis for stimulating the sword thorns so much? Are only people from other worlds able to understand the skills by doing this, or can we do it too? Suddenly a barrage caused everyone to think deeply. Talents such as P are also talents. It doesn't matter if your qualifications are a little bit low. If you can make up for it through hard work, that's fine too. Of course, most people do not believe this kind of illogical speculation and think it is a coincidence of Ikuya Hano. But there are also a few people who ordered sword spines from the internet overnight and started to play with them. 1 person and 1 dragon just passed out for the duration of the live broadcast, but the popularity of the live broadcast room did not decline. On the contrary, water friends who had just entered saw this strange scene of the pair of comatose and joined the discussion one after another, causing the interaction index of Yuya's live broadcast room to rise rapidly, making Bai Xiao grin from ear to ear. Not to mention, when Yuya's live broadcast in the afternoon was about to end, someone actually tried the results and posted them to the live broadcast room. An ordinary person with AP level talent, relying on his strong perseverance, stabbed himself with a sword spine many times in a self-inflicted manner, and realized the passive ability, resilience. Chapter 9. What if it's true? Is there anyone who really understands resilience? Why does it feel like it's fake to me? Do you still feel it? It must be fake. Someone must have tried it themselves, but found it didn't work, and deliberately tricked others into trying it too. Come on, I've paid the IQ tax. Everyone, I am male, 32 years old, unmarried, unemployed at home. I happen to have a pot of ornamental plant sword thorn in front of me, and I am now preparing to try it. I will let everyone know when the results are obtained. Heh, who's growing a sword thorn as an ornamental plant is kidding me? As Bai Xiao expected, the vast majority of the viewers in the live broadcast room did not believe that the sword spine could induce people to understand skills. This plant is so common that it grows in all major plains. It is so common that no one will study its extraordinary properties. Just like weeds on the roadside, most people don't care about them. New species are discovered all the time in the endless plain. Wouldn't it be nice to study those scientific papers and discover their characteristics to get scientific research rewards? But soon, the trend in the live broadcast room quietly changed. At the beginning, there was only one ID saying that he could comprehend the skill, but as time went by, several new IDs appeared and also said that he had learned the skill. Some said that he had learned slight paralysis immunity LV1, and some said that he had learned pain sense block LV1, and others have realized tenacity LV1. I don't know if I'm fishing or a sailor. Wait a minute, where did the Navy come from at this point? Ikuya Hano didn't sign a contract at all and didn't even know that she was being broadcast live. How could she find the trolls? Could it be that she, the backstage manager, found her? Naturally impossible. So why are there so many IDs sending messages? Either it is really a group of fun people fishing for law enforcement, or this rumor is true and this is a group of tap water. No matter what it is, the direction of the entire live broadcast room is getting weirder and weirder. The anchor who was supposed to live broadcast lay down and fainted, but the live broadcast room was discussing academic issues, can sword spines help people learn skills, and there was even a tendency to quarrel in the end. Bai Xiao thought for a while, found an excuse that the live broadcast time is full, and closed the live broadcast room from the background. During the next working hours, Bai Xiao watched other live broadcasts, looking for excellent seeds with traffic, and tried to add traffic packages to them to see if he could break out of the underlying traffic pool. But unfortunately, the other live broadcast rooms that Bai Xiao randomly selected are not interesting. They are all in normal development areas. Lifestyle players should be planting trees and digging soil. Combat-type players kill monsters and complete missions, obtain rewards, and improve their talent proficiency. Some with relatively high talents can also learn one or two small combat skills. But overall, there is nothing too eye-catching. Watching these boring live broadcasts, Bai Xiao was a little lost, and couldn't help but recall the last quarrel about the sword thorn issue in Ikuya Hano's live broadcast room. She shook her head first, feeling a little ridiculous. How could she think of going to that kind of place? How many times can you feel the skill after piercing the sword thorns? Isn't this really a joke? Even if Ikuya Hano did it in the live broadcast room, it doesn't mean that the natives of their boundless plain can replicate it. There are really too many factors that may affect the final result. It may be that the Blue Star people from another world have a special physique. It is possible that the sword spines in Ikuya Hano's plane are not the common ones, but a subspecies that is difficult to distinguish. It may also be a pure coincidence. After all, Ikuya Hano can even summon dragons. Maybe he is the chosen European emperor? Bai Xiao shook these outrageous thoughts out of his mind. It was getting late. Bai Xiao packed up all her things and prepared to go home from get-off work. When passing by the elevator, she met her colleague who took over the night shift, Gao Li. Gao Li wore heavy makeup and looked very beautiful, as if she had just come back from a nightclub, and she still smelled of alcohol. Bai Xiao nodded slightly towards the other party, but Gao Li pretended not to see anything, turned around and walked away, her waist as thin as a willow twisting like a water snake. Because of the tight workstation, the two of them used the same desk and the same optical computer. The only difference was the back-end administrator account they used to log in. This was not the first time Bai Xiao had seen Gao Li look at people with her nostrils. She was not angry and just pretended not to have seen it. When I was going home, I passed by a flower shop and saw a small sword-shaped leaf sticking out of a flower basket at the outermost edge of the shop. The shape of sword thorn is rather peculiar. Although it will not look good as an ornamental plant alone, if it is trimmed a little, it can still be used as an ingredient in special bouquets. That outrageous idea appeared in Bai Xiao's mind again. No matter how outrageous it is to k yourself with a sword, what if it happens? What if this is true? Bai Xiao bit her lip, thought over and over again, and finally walked to the flower shop. On the other side, Yuya woke up leisurely, looked at the sun that was gradually setting in the west, picked up the sleeping little dragon cub, and took it back to his territory. The first thing was to place a large number of sword thorn seeds on the fence. 1 unit of fence was matched with 1 unit of sword thorn. After meeting the relevant conditions, this extraordinary building finally emitted green light. The seeds quickly began to germinate, and needle-shaped leaves shaped like small swords grew, completely covering the outward side of the fence. The fence also suddenly rose, from waist-high to chest-high. It was already impossible for ordinary creatures to cross it. Without relevant protective measures, as long as a beast is pricked by this sword thorn, it will be painful for a long time. This is common sense for the various beasts living in the forest. Therefore, the sword spine itself is equivalent to a deterrent, and no one will take the initiative to provoke it. Yuya looked at the wall of his territory with satisfaction and nodded. Security plus 100. It would be even better if these sword thorn fences could also be waterproof. Big Mac, who was lying aside, was startled when he saw the sword thorns that suddenly grew out of the bare fence, and his 4 short legs jumped forward suddenly. It can be seen that what happened in the afternoon left a deep shadow on it. But the end result is still very good. After being hit by mistake, Yuya gained the passive skill, pain blocking, while Big Mac gained the passive skill, mild paralysis immunity. This is the first time that Yuyi has understood skills by himself. The ones who discuss and understand skills the most in the group are the combat class players. They have been killing wild monsters for several days in a row. No matter how stupid they are, they should have mastered 1 or 2 commonly used attack skills. For example, straight thrust, parry, jump, and so on. Lifestyle players have much fewer opportunities to comprehend, but some have learned passive skills such as focus and patience. After dealing with the matter of sword thorn, it was getting late in the day. Yuya returned to his lord's cabin, with the little dragon cub in his arms. Chapter 10. A big boss sneaks into the group. Little farmer in the mountains, friends, my planting farm is finally built. Unfortunately, I couldn't find the seeds of Blue Star in my previous life. The spiritual plant seeds sold in the system are very expensive. Does anyone have any recommendations? What kind of spiritual plant is better to plant at this stage? Sad love, holy shit, the big boss suddenly appears. Flower girl is not bothered, holy shit, the big boss suddenly appears. Secretly sniffing my smelly feet downstairs, damn it, the boss is here. Several IDs who were more active in the group all typed a row of, holy shit, the big boss is here, when, little farmer in the mountains, spoke. Yuya was also a little surprised. If he wanted to collect 200 units of wood in just a few days, there were only 2 possibilities. One was the European emperor, like Yuya, and the other was the Gan emperor. Surprisingly, Mountain Farmer is this type of player. Yuyi currently has a baby earth dragon, which is purely a cheating productivity. Everyone who traveled from Blue Star is a modern person who cannot carry on their shoulders or lift with their hands. Most of them have never been exposed to heavy physical labor at all, and many of them complain of hardship and exhaustion even after doing any work. Little farmer in the mountains can collect so much wood in such a short period of time purely by physical strength, so he is obviously not the lazy type. Sadness, everyone, is there anyone who can provide wood? I can exchange it for ore. The plants here are as hard as rocks, and it hurts my hands to cut them. Cute-faced thief, 66, not long after my player territory was built, a boss collected 200 units of wood. I am really a waste. Very silly and naive, I laughed. He said he had collected it, so you believed it? I also said that I had already erected the arrow tower. Collecting 200 units of wood in such a short period of time, are you kidding? Everyone is not good at fighting, so why can he be so fast? Your wife's air leakage in the middle of the night, I found out. The people upstairs don't believe anything anyway. Abstract handsome guy said he had awakened S-level talent but didn't believe it. Mountain farmer said he had built a planting farm. I don't believe it either. Anyway, you don't believe anyone who is better than you? In response to the doubts, very silly and naive, naturally refused to be outdone and fought back harshly. Seeing that the two were about to quarrel in the public group, someone immediately came out to change the topic. Sad love, okay, the boss is seriously asking for help in the field of planting. If you have a quarrel, just start a private chat alone, right? Cute-faced thief, yes, we all came from Blue Star after all. The indigenous humans in the Endless Plain may not like us, and the major races may launch an invasion at any time. We must unite, only then can we hope for long-term development. Flower Girl is not bothered, this is true. If the plain where the mountain boss is located is very suitable for planting, it can completely meet the food needs of some people in our small group. Only by sharing what we have and complementing our strengths can we develop better. Flower Girl is not bothered, my plain is all ocean, and I am currently on an archipelago. If you need salt and pickled fish, please contact me. The quarrel in the group was quickly covered by messages. Although the guys who were active in the group liked chatting and spanking, their ideological consciousness was still quite high. For life players, their own territory is everything in the future. Cold face killing god, do you need the meat of level 1 monsters? You can't eat them all, so we will ship them in large quantities. During the peaceful advertising session, another ID that had not been spoken to before appeared. This person's words are concise, but he is full of information. Sad love, 666, this is a real boss. Cute-faced thief, 666, this is a real boss. Secretly smell my smelly feet downstairs, 666, you guys are really repeaters. Flower Girl is not bothered, 666, it's your stinky feet again. Your wife leaked air in the middle of the night. By the way, in this group of 500 people, we are the only ones chatting back and forth. Could it be that they are all us lousy life players, right? Sad love, I'm not, I don't have it, you're talking nonsense. Flower Girl is not bothered, don't you know that fishing guys are very idle? Cute-faced thief, you know the truth. People in the war class are all doing killing missions to get rewards, or learning skills to improve their proficiency. It's really only us, the bad players in the life class, who are chatting. While we were chatting, I didn't know where the speech of the true combat professional leader, cold face killing god, went. Yi, on the other hand, took this information seriously. Although the earth-walking dragon is an omnivore, it is a bit too bitter to spend every day just eating grass and doing manual labor. As its owner, it is natural to want to improve its food. But Yuya wasn't sure what, cold-faced god slayer, as a combat professional player, was lacking. His specialty hair is nothing to an opponent who can hunt level 1 monsters. With this in mind, he sent a private message to the other party. Ikuya Hano, what are you going to change? Cold face killing god quickly replied to the message, obviously paying attention to the system interface. Cold face killing god, do you have any wood? The place I am exploring is a bit far away from the territory, and I want to build a stronghold for myself. Ikuya Hano, how many do you want? Cold face killing god, can I exchange 80 units of monster meat for 200 units of wood? This transaction will be more disadvantageous for ordinary life-based players, because they all have to work hard to cut trees, and 200 units of wood already takes 2 days of work. But considering that the efficiency of the war class players if they go to plant trees will definitely be higher than that of ordinary life-type players, perhaps in the eyes of these war class players, 200 units of wood are worth the price. Moreover, the meat of level 1 monsters is also considered a good thing. Depending on the quality and type of the meat, eating them has a probability of increasing the attribute value. Yuya silently glanced at his thousands of units of wood storage, and then silently glanced at the Big Mac, playing against the trees in the open space beside him. After checking the transaction request, the two reached a deal instantly. As a player in the combat profession, it is natural to focus on leveling up. For level 1 creatures, the full value of each attribute is 20 points. If you want to obtain attribute points, in addition to completing the tasks released by the Shuguang system to obtain attribute value rewards, you can also obtain attribute points and skills through continuous exercise and learning. As long as one attribute can break through the 20-point attribute value mark, it can be regarded as being promoted to level 2. But there is no doubt that if a single attribute value exceeds 20 points, this is the weakest level 2 creature, and the peak attribute value of a level 2 creature can reach 60 points. If you upgrade in the weakest way, then even though they are both level 2 creatures, the strength gap between them will only be larger than that of level 1. Cold-faced God Slayer, and most of the silent combat professionals in the group were constantly completing the killing missions given by the system to improve their attribute values. Although they also found time to plant trees, they received information from the Dawn system. The most basic 3-piece territory set has been replaced, but basically no warrior will start building their own territory. Because, when the strength is strong, and then you want to start construction, that is where the lights on the Dawn system panel are. Those materials that are still difficult for novices to obtain are almost readily available to the combat professionals who have grown up. By then, if they want to build a territory, they will enter a stage of rapid development. Of course, the vast majority of warriors do not like being dragged down by their territory and are alone. They only pursue the strength of their own individual body. This is also the reason why Cold-faced God Slayer can be so far away from his own territory, so far away that he can establish a new small stronghold. Because he doesn't care about the development of the territory at all, but focuses on his own strength. As his strength increases, everything will be possible. After all, everyone's time is limited, and he is obviously unlikely to spend a lot of energy building a planting farm or harvesting spiritual grains. For most warriors, upgrading is the last thing they want. As for other things to eat, use, and wear, aren't there so many lifestyle players in the group? When necessary, sell your body and hire yourself to these life players through Time and Space Tavern. Wouldn't all these problems be solved at once? Chapter 11: The Fruit of Talent, Architectural Empowerment. Bob still made a cup of amber tears today. Although Yu also wanted to taste the taste of this wine, but thinking that this wine could be exchanged for dragon cubs from the 5 nearby time and space nodes, he knew that this kind of wine was definitely not something he could drink as he was still starting from scratch. Affordable. Bite. Tears of Amber has been put on the shelves in all planes of the 5 nearby time and space nodes, and 485 customers have bid for it. Based on the highest bidder's offer. This transaction was successful. You have obtained an A-quality fruit of talent. Note, the talent fruit can give the eater a brand new A-level talent. Each creature can only take effect for the first time. It's outrageous. This is truly outrageous. Yuya had no intention of keeping it and not eating it. The fruit was beyond the standard for him now, so he should quickly transform it into strength. In the future, if he can survive, new good things will naturally come out. It's a pity that he only has one fruit of talent, otherwise he would have to give one to his Big Mac, no matter what. You have taken the fruit of talent. You have obtained a new A-level talent, Building Empowerment. Building Empowerment. For each different 1-star extraordinary building on your extraordinary territory, you will receive a random attribute point until it reaches the upper limit of the attribute value of that level. This talent is currently a level. Currently only effective for level 2 and below. Note, if it is a lucky attribute point, it will be converted at a ratio of 10 to 1, that is, 10 different extraordinary buildings will be converted into one lucky point. Yuya took a look at his new talent in surprise. This talent can be completely combined with his building mutation. It is obviously the same series of talents as his original talent. After obtaining this talent, Yuya instantly discovered that there were 4 more attribute points that could be allocated on the Shuguang system panel. These 4 attribute points are provided by 4 extraordinary buildings: Sword Thorn Fence, Waiting Bulletin Board, Bob's Time and Space Tavern, and Lord's Cabin. Without much thought, Yuya piled all 4 attributes into the physique column. His 6-dimensional attributes were all 9. After adding 4 points to physique, he successfully exceeded 10 points and reached 13 points. A warm current spread from the majestic beating heart and flowed towards the limbs. Yuya could feel that his physical strength, endurance, and other subtle aspects had been strengthened. Instant sense of security plus 10,086. Yuya, who was in a good mood, took out 1 unit of level 1 monster meat, roasted it briefly, and then threw it to the Big Mac. The little dragon cub immediately jumped up, wagging its tail, and swallowed the piece of meat. Soon, it excitedly rushed out of its territory and rushed towards the bald forest land. Yuyi also tasted a piece of level 1 monster meat. The taste was really good. The meat was smooth and tender and melted in your mouth. You could even sense traces of star power from it, which made Yuya's belly, which had never been practiced before, a warm current arose in the air. He could feel that eating this kind of meat for a long time would definitely help him improve his attribute values. Yuno suddenly realized, is this the way to improve as a life player? Without combat talents, they can still rely on resources to obtain attribute values and skills, and their future development prospects will not be any worse than combat professions. And in the later stage, everyone has the same goal and needs resources to advance. After understanding the benefits of World of Warcraft meat, he has made up his mind to build a good relationship with combat players like Cold-Faced God Slayer. After all, if he could just build a 1-star extraordinary building by himself. The first order 6-dimensional figure has a cap of 20 points each. Yuya would have to build at least 50 or 60 different extraordinary buildings to fill up all the attribute values. How much resources and time would this require? Except for lucky points. This is the reason why Yuno's talent can only be rated as a level. It is very strong in a sense, but it still has great limitations. Moreover, the current, building empowerment, is only effective for level 2 and above, which also limits its upper limit. At the end of another day, Yuya lay in his cabin and opened the chat interface. In the large chat group of 500 people, many new IDs were speaking at this time. Yuya looked through the previous chat records for a while, and then he understood the cause and effect of the matter. It turns out that, Little Farmer in the mountains, has planted some first-level spiritual plants excavated from the jungle since he left the planting farm. After he used his talent, the fluctuations in the growth of the spiritual plants attracted a group of indigenous brothers. Bryn's Covet. As a professional player, it is very easy to defeat a creature like Goblin with all attributes below 5 points. But despite the large number of people on the opposite side, the mountain farmers were still no match. The newly built planting farm was occupied by dozens of goblins. At this moment, this old man is preparing to issue a mission in the Time and Space Tavern to recruit mercenaries. The warriors in the group who were originally diving emerged one after another and began to brag. "Take out my big treasure, brother, you might as well trade with me directly. I am a B-level talent in the warrior profession, and I can kill dozens of goblins without chopping melons and vegetables. Did this cup of milk?" These days, people are boasting about B-level talents. I am an archer with A-level talents. One arrow can kill a goblin, no matter what. Sister is the queen, let's just say, these people upstairs are so weak. Farmer brother, let me go ahead and open a wushwang and I will definitely win it for you in minutes. Very silly and naive, here it comes again. Let me see which little cuties are going to be deceived again. They really think that the talents of A and B are just cabbage. In our group of 500 people, the average person in our group is B. Your wife leaked air in the middle of the night. I don't know what level of talent other people have, but anyway, you are definitely not B level. Your sour taste is overflowing from my screen. Very silly and naive, are you looking for trouble? Your wife leaked air in the middle of the night, are you afraid? Let's challenge her. Soon the two disappeared from the screen, apparently continuing the afternoon scolding in private messages. The warriors on the screen were bragging to each other, but soon someone jumped out and made a fuss, revealing the embarrassing current situation of the warriors. A group of life players discovered that these combat players sounded very majestic, but in fact, they were not as beautiful as they imagined. First of all, everyone knows that you can become stronger by clearing monsters, but the endless plane is not a game world. Some monsters will be refreshed every once in a while. If all the monsters are cleared, the players will have to run the map to clear the monsters themselves. And once they establish a territory, it means that the warriors are limited to a certain place. If they want to go to a farther place, it will take a lot of time to go back and forth. This is the reason for Cold Face Killing God. The idea is to establish a new stronghold. This is indeed a good solution, but it only treats the symptoms rather than the root cause. Such strongholds can spread around the territory, but they still cannot reach further places. The original territory of the warriors is still in a semi-abandoned state. And spawning monsters is not as easy as imagined, as evidenced by the fact that there are only 497/500 people left in the group. In addition to Abstract Handsome Guy, 2 more unlucky guys died for various reasons. After review, it was found that these 2 were also warriors, and they all died because of monster spawning. The 3 dead players in the group were all combat professionals, and none of the life-oriented players who were developing their territories peacefully were still alive. Obviously, there is a risk in killing monsters. Even if there is no death, just a simple injury will make the warriors spend a period of time cultivating. Fortunately, everyone can restore their own state by practicing star power, and it is easy to heal minor injuries. Otherwise, the mortality rate of monster spawning will have to be further increased. Under this situation, some players who are not very talented in combat have joined the Embrace of Life players and become a strange form of half-life profession and half-combat profession. All of the above are combined, which is why the warriors in the group were overwhelmed when they heard that there were dozens of goblins in Mountain Farmer. By getting rid of these goblins, maybe they can learn certain skills, or enhance the proficiency of skills, or even be able to get rid of the heads of the killing missions issued by the Dawn system. There are still many benefits. As for which warrior was attracted by Mountain Farmer, Yuya did not continue to pay attention. However, the experience of Little Farmer in the mountains sounded the alarm for Yuya. Although life players are more stable than warriors, the dangers in the plane are not fixed. With the gradual expansion of the territory, you will definitely encounter various dangers. The indigenous goblins may be just the lowest level of danger. Chapter 12 Planting Farm, Dave's Plants. On a new day, after harvesting the hare, the second transaction between Yuya and Sad Love ended at the Time and Space Tavern. The 200 units of wood, 100 units of soil, and 10 units of ore required for the extraordinary building, Planting Farm, have been completely collected. Yuya couldn't wait to arrive at the selected location and submitted the collected resources on the Dawn system. Soon, a brand new plantation farm appeared out of thin air at the site. Due to Big Mac's crazy pushing of trees and harvesting wood resources in the past 2 days, Yuya's wood resources are quite abundant, and the sword thorns in the jungle were also harvested manually by Yuya yesterday after Yuya reluctantly collected them. Quite a lot. So he waved his hand and created dozens of sword thorn fences on the interface of the Dawn system to surround the newly opened farm. Not only that, the extra sword thorn fence can also form a path that leads directly to the territory. In this way, the smooth flow of the farm and territory is ensured. Small enemies like goblins cannot break through the corridors filled with spikes and enter the farm. The interior of the farm is very neat, divided into 10 grid-shaped structures. Each grid contains 1 unit of extraordinary soil, which can plant 1 unit of seeds. As for what kind of plants to plant, Yuya has no idea yet, but they are definitely not the ordinary plants that he planted in his previous life. If nothing else, the long harvest cycle alone makes people feel insecure. Facing the newly built planting farm, Ikuno activated his building mutation ability again. A dazzling white light flashed, and Yuya quickly opened the new building panel. Building name, Dave's Planting Farm, mutation +1. Building level, level 1. Building area, 10 squares. Building quality, Huiyao. Building life, 500 + 300. Building materials required: 200 units of wood, 100 units of soil, and 10 units of ore. Building functions: 1. Breed fertile land, which can grow dozens of common crops. Enhanced. 2. Speed up the growth of crops. Newly added: 3 new NPC. Dave has been added to the planting farm. He will assist the Lord in completing everything and the work of planting the farm. Newly added: for Dave is good at growing plants and is good at improving crops. For some reason, he seems to have a great resentment toward zombies and the undead. The plants he modified seem to be no longer edible. Dave? Yuya was stunned. If this name was related to the farm, he couldn't help but recall that the popular game, Plants vs. Zombies, on Blue Star in his previous life was played in Dave Smith's backyard. Thinking about it this way, the NPC Bob in the Time and Space Tavern also has the same name as the tavern owner in the Hearthstone game in his previous life. Is it a coincidence? Yuya scratched his head, wondering what the mystery was. After all, these characters bound to the building did not seem to be completely real. While thinking, a figure with a beard, a peaked cap and jeans walked out of the farm. He waved to Yuya and said hello without warning. Then Yuya suddenly discovered that 200 units of his wood storage had disappeared out of thin air. Then, a small house was quickly built in the corner of the farm. Obviously, this was the home Dave built for himself. Then this sturdy NPC carried a hoe and began to cultivate 10 units of land silently. He took out a handful of strange seeds with no visible appearance from his jeans pocket and quickly sowed them on the ground. Not long after, he began to sit leisurely on a newly built wooden deck chair and bask in the sun. He also very fashionably put on sunglasses that appeared out of nowhere. Dave's mysterious seed, sunflower. Regarding the seed information sown, Yuya could only obtain a small amount of information from the system interface. Now, he no longer needs to worry about what to grow on the farm. He is still very comfortable as a hands-off shopkeeper. Yuya smiled happily, feeling that he, the little lord, should feel particularly comfortable. Mature extraordinary buildings should know how to spawn NPCs and manage themselves. After a long period of light, these, sunflower, seeds germinate quickly and grow flower discs facing the sun. Hey, isn't this the sunflower from Plants vs. Zombies? Although the appearance has changed slightly, the ability to collect sunlight has not changed at all. Name, sunflower. Race, spirit plant. Attribute, light wood. Level, level 1. Status, can be planted. HP 100 out of 100. Strength, 0. Spirit, 13. Agility, 0. Physique, 5. Charm, 8. Lucky, 5. Racial talent, 1. Photosynthesis. The seeds of sunflowers will germinate quickly and grow into flower discs after receiving light. The flower disc will produce solar energy for plant growth. 2. Energy storage. When the sunflower is completely mature, the excess solar energy can be stored in the golden flower disc. After it withers, the energy can be taken out from the golden flower disc at any time for use by other spiritual plants. Note, the solar energy produced by level 1 sunflowers only has a relatively obvious effect on ordinary plants and level 1 spiritual plants. Large amounts of use have a slight effect on level 2 spiritual plants, but are completely ineffective on level 3 spiritual plants. 10 golden flower discs grew out of 10 units of soil. The beating, solar energy, kept falling on the farm and was absorbed by the golden flower discs, lighting up the small farm as if it had turned into a flower. A golden ocean. Instead of taking care of the vibrant farm, Yuya came to the jungle area again with the Big Mac in his arms and started a new land reclamation work. The corner of the plain he landed in had a mountain behind it, a river on one side, and dense forests on the other 2 sides. If the territory wanted to expand and develop, all these trees must be removed. If there were no earthly dragons, if Yuya wanted to complete this arduous task, Yuya would have to first build a teleport hall, then buy some slaves from the Time and Space Tavern, and slowly cultivate the land with a lot of manpower. In the Endless Plain, there is a large amount of slave trade. The discovery of the indigenous plain immediately attracts war traders and slave traders. Although there is a dawn system belonging to the human camp in the Endless Plane, this does not mean that any human being has the system. The dawn system of the human camp is a supreme creation jointly created by the 7 major forces of the human race. It is released to humans in the time and space nodes of the explored planes. The newly discovered indigenous plane obviously does not belong to this category. As a small world in the alien universe that was absorbed by the world of endless planes, Blue Star was considered by the Dawn system to have high potential value, so it spent a huge amount of power to bind the humans of Blue Star. Both the Dawn system and the Blue Star people themselves are well aware of this. Even the name of the latest version of the Dawn system is New Human Observation Record. This can be regarded as both having their own needs. The people of Blue Star need to survive in the boundless plane, and the Alliance is also curious about what kind of abilities the aliens with a 99.999% awakening rate have, so this wave of large versions has been formed. Chapter 13: The Victory of People with Difficulty Choosing. Bai Xiao looked at the pot of sword thorns in front of him, and suddenly regretted buying it from the flower shop. At that time, she didn't know if it was a whim or something, but she just wanted to try to see if the outrageous remarks in the live broadcast room were true. But when the sword thorn was placed in front of her, she began to hesitate again. After all, it takes a lot of courage for a person to take the initiative to self-mutilate or self-abuse. Bai Xiao lacked this courage at the moment. Why not just treat it as an ornamental plant? The next second, Bai Xiao was so stupid by his own idea. How could anyone really buy such a plant that grows wantonly and is difficult to prune as an ornamental plant? You can't really put it at home, otherwise once it grows lush, won't it block your own way? But when he really threw it away, Bai Xiao couldn't bear to part with the dozens of dollars he spent to buy it. After hesitating for a long time, Bai Xiao finally made up his mind. If the statement in the live broadcast room is false, then she has the right to pay IQ tax. With this idea in mind, Bai Xiao gritted his teeth, stretched out an index finger, and pressed it with his eyes closed. The next second, the chair overturned, and a girl foaming at the mouth fell on the spot. After about a minute or more, Bai Xiao woke up with his eyelids rolled. This is so G painful. No joke at all. And this pain is accompanied by a tingling electric shock sensation all over the body, which makes people feel a little headache. Or just forget it. Bai Xiao wiped his mouth and wanted to give up. However, once you give up, doesn't it mean that the previous blow was in vain? I always feel like I'm at a loss. But if this is just a lie, if you continue to try it, doesn't that mean you have to take a lot of beatings? Suddenly, things fell into a dilemma again, and Bai Xiao, who had difficulty in making choices, was almost forced to death. Her heart skipped a beat, she took out her fearless courage, stretched out an index finger and pressed on. Coma, wake up, coma, wake up. Finally, after a certain cycle, Bai Xiao, with disheveled hair and blurred eyes, felt that there seemed to be some kind of power in her body. The will of the plane seemed to tell her that she had obtained the skill, pain blocking. Bai Xiao Kai nodded with the last trace of reason and yelled inarticulately due to the foam in his mouth, "I did it." Then the next second his eyes rolled up, and he fainted from happiness. On the other side, Yuya squatted in the corner of the planting farm, furtively observing the first-level spiritual plant, sunflower, in 10 units with his head raised and a smile. These small flowers have bright discs, as if made of pure gold, with simple facial features that appear to be outlined with a pen. They look like the first plants that players in Plants vs. Zombies came into contact with in their previous lives. If this is really a sunflower, then how should the energy it generates be used in plants? In order not to disturb the NPC who didn't seem to be easy to mess with, Yuya specially found this perfect, peeping, location. Yuyi waited silently while wiping a handful of bitter tears in his heart. He, as a lord, was living a miserable life. Both NPCs were bearded and had fierce looks on their faces. Especially Bob. As a bartender in a tavern, he makes amber tears every day. As a lord, he doesn't have to drink it even if he doesn't drink it. After all, that thing is expensive. But when they met in private, the two just nodded and didn't say a word. It once made Yuya suspect that the randomly generated NPCs in the building might have communication barriers. But when Dave joined his territory yesterday, Yuno noticed that there was an obvious difference. That is, the two NPCs Bob and Dave actually chatted very easily in private. What's even more frightening is that the two of them spoke pure English. Yuya's three-legged English proficiency had been given back to the teachers as early as when he had just graduated from college. This made Yuya eavesdrop on the conversation between the two, and he couldn't even guess what was going on. This made Yuyi, as a lord, very embarrassed. There are currently 3 people in the territory, and he deeply feels that he is isolated. No. Next time, all Chinese-speaking NPCs will be eliminated and isolated. Thinking like this, NPC Dave slowly walked out of his hut. He walked into the farm step by step wearing a white shirt and a blue peaked cap. He looked at the sunflowers on the ground, silently touched his chin, fell into deep thought, and then clapped his hands as if he had made some decision. Dave took out a small shovel, dug out a sunflower, and transplanted it outside the farm protected by the sword-thorn fence. The smile carved on the transplanted sunflower has not changed at all. Although it is not in the planting farm, it still condenses the direct sunlight into a ball of golden light spots. After the transplantation, Dave did not care about it anymore, but continued to choose transplantation. 4 more sunflowers were soon planted next to the sunflower just now. As for the remaining 5 units, sunflowers, in the 10 units of soil, Dave has no idea of moving anymore. Then, Dave reached into his trouser pocket and took out a handful of mysterious seeds. Dave's mystery seed, pea shooter. A message flashed in front of Yuyi. When he saw this message, he raised his eyebrows. It was already obvious that this Dave was an NPC that was very similar to the one in the game in his previous life. Although the two were not exactly the same, they had something in common. At least these NPCs in his extraordinary buildings have abilities that they never had in the games of his previous life. For example, Dave may start by cultivating the spiritual plants in Plants vs. Zombies, but will he cultivate some spiritual plants in Plants vs. Demons and Plants vs. Zergs later? After all, in this boundless plane, there are far more than just zombie creatures that are hostile to the human camp. It's really hard to tell. At this moment, Dave rubbed his fingers and sowed the mysterious seeds. Under the influence of the extraordinary building, planting farm, the seeds quickly took root and sprouted. But just taking root and sprouting has already consumed most of the growth effect of the extraordinary building. Seeing that its growth rate slowed down, the sunflower that was closest to it suddenly spit out a golden light spot the size of a fist onto the leaves of the pea shooter seedling. The pea shooter seedlings suddenly jumped up and grew fiercely, as if they had been injected with chicken blood. Yuyi nodded. This is what sunflower does. As a mutated plant, it is more difficult to obtain the growth accelerating buff from planting farm than ordinary spiritual plants. This is the role of Dave planting sunflowers first. It stores a large amount of solar energy one day early. When he plants other mutant plants in rotation, he can release the energy from time to time to accelerate the growth of the plants. Thinking of Dave's transplantation method, Yuya suddenly realized that the plants on his farm were all food plants, but in fact they were all combat plants. When the spiritual plants on other people's farms are mature, they are busy harvesting them and then planting them quickly. The harvested spiritual plants are consumed as food. When Yuya's spiritual plants mature, they can be planted around to protect the territory. The number will increase. Although these plants do not exist forever like in the game in the previous life, they also have a lifespan, but as long as the planting speed exceeds the speed of their death, isn't there more and more? It's really a good thing. Yuyi nodded, and then his expression suddenly changed. So how should he solve the eating problem between himself and Big Mac? Hey, who else remembers that plantation farms should be used to grow food, not weapons? Chapter 14. People from other worlds are really treasures. When Bai Xiao woke up, it was already dark outside the house. She didn't have time to have breakfast, so she hurried out. Her home is some distance away from the plane management bureau, so the commute time is very long. When she arrived at the management office, she punched in at the check-in point and didn't even have time to go to the breakfast shop next door to buy a cup of a Michael. Wheat is a delicious food. It doesn't require much processing. Just grind it into powder and brew it with hot water to make a drink that is very fragrant and very filling. It is said that this is an excellent spiritual plant variety prepared by the Druid after sorting out the extraordinary energy through screening. Although Michael itself has no taste and is simply fragrant, it is an excellent raw material for drinks and is almost versatile. Whether it is added with various juices or with ingredients such as frozen tea, it is a good choice. It's a pity that Bai Xiao can't drink Michael today. She pressed the elevator to the 13th floor with great annoyance. She shouldn't have tried that bullshit, sword thorn, last night, otherwise she wouldn't have been unconscious until it was time to go to work. This way, she won't miss such delicious Michael. Wait a minute, did she forget something? Bai Xiao's brain suddenly twitched, and the memory of her last night's fainting gradually emerged. She seemed to have sensed a huge will of the plane at the last moment. Congratulations to her, she obtained the passive skill of pain blocking. In fact, before Bai Xiao was evaluated as a P-level talent, she never felt that she was an amazingly talented person, so she didn't feel too depressed when she was recognized as a P-level talent. Just because she had already accepted the fact that she was an ordinary person, and was ready to start a life of messing around and waiting to die. According to the average age of Klein people, she, who is currently only 20, still has at least 200 years to waste. But, it's different now, she actually passively comprehended a skill. Even a transparent person like her can comprehend the skill. Doesn't that mean that all the comments in the live broadcast are true? Sword thorn, maybe it can really help people understand skills. Suddenly understanding the importance of what happened in the live broadcast room, Bai Xiao couldn't bear to miss the wonderful strawberry-flavored Michael. When the elevator arrived on the 13th floor, he trotted all the way into the office of his superior, Mike. It's Mike, not Michael. Although the supervisor's name is similar to the name of Bai Xiao's favorite thing, she has no interest in him. The relationship between them is just an ordinary work relationship. After listening to Bai Xiao's words, Mike suddenly became serious. If what happened in Ikuya Hano's live broadcast room is true, then this is definitely a major event that benefits mankind. What is the concept of being able to acquire a skill stably? As a P-class citizen, Mike also couldn't tell, but he just knew that this was definitely breaking news. This is it. You continue to follow this live broadcast room called Ikuya Hano today and try to add traffic packages to him. If you can get out of the bottom flow pool, that's fine. If you can't, don't worry. Mike paced back and forth in the small office and thought for a while, and then finalized, to be honest, this matter is just an example. Even with the few voices in the live broadcast room, it is not very sustainable. I'm going to ask Professor Drake from the Mori sect of the Druid department at Klein University to personally verify this statement. As long as the proof report is given, then it's hard for this, Ikuya Hano, not to be popular. After listening to Director Mike's words, Bai Xiao suddenly became energetic. According to the provisions of the Federal Live Broadcast Regulations, as Ikuya Hano's backstage manager and explorer, their interests have been tied together. How much money will she have in the future? How high you can reach now depends on Ikuya Hano's ability. If Professor Senpai of the Druid Department of Klein University really researches something, then Ikuya Hano will definitely become a little popular. Although it still needs to be verified, Bai Xiao, who has personally experienced acquiring skills, has indeed determined in his heart that there is something here. You must know that although it is not difficult to obtain skills in the entire infinite plane, it is definitely not easy. Human beings have explored many channels to obtain skills. But most of these channels have a prerequisite, that is, they must be extraordinary. But Yu Ye's newly discovered channel allows even ordinary people to acquire skills very quickly. Universality. That's its biggest advantage. This version is worthy of being called Record of New Human Observations. It has only been so long before such a discovery was made. Bai Xiao couldn't help but sigh. If it weren't for these people from other worlds who have no understanding of the infinite plane, who would have the imagination to touch the sword spines and mutilate themselves to obtain skills? It is conceivable that there will be more new discoveries in the future, which will impact the existing human structure and affect the battle situation on the front lines of Infinite War. After exiting the supervisor's office, Bai Xiao returned to his workstation. As expected, he found that on the originally tidy workstation, melon and fruit shells were spat on the floor, and there were countless torn snack bags on the ground. At the workstation, Gao Li, who was wearing heavy makeup, was lying on a chair with her head tilted up, her lips smeared with lipstick and her lips flowing out, accompanied by a slight snore. The live broadcast room on the split screen on the optical computer has ended long ago and turned into a black screen, but it still did not exit. Obviously, this Gao Li didn't care about these live broadcasts at all, and didn't even know when they would end. Bai Xiao frowned and woke her up. Shift change? Gao Li, who had just woken up with her hair exploding, looked around in confusion. Then she suddenly woke up, wiped her saliva, and stood up in vain. Her high heels stepped on the ground quickly, making a crisp sound. She had no intention of cleaning up and left in a hurry. Bai Xiao looked at the garbage all over the floor, and veins popped up on his forehead, but he still had to clean it up. Although Gao Li and she both had P-level talents, the fact that the other one was able to fish like this without getting caught had something to do with it. And the one who can turn a blind eye to this is naturally the superior supervisor named Mike. Therefore, Bai Xiao endured it. Next time, if it happens like this next time, she will ask to change workstations. Bai Xiao secretly swore in her heart, but in fact she also knew that she had thought about similar oaths many times and never made it once. Thinking of this, she felt a little depressed, but she soon adjusted her mood, turned on the optical brain, and switched to her own account. Then, she stretched out her hand and waved it on the screen filled with photons, and Ikuya Hano's split screen switched to the main screen. It's just that the live broadcast room is still in a black screen. Before the host has signed a contract, this kind of public live broadcast has to be manually switched by her backstage staff. This is one of the few rights of her position. Whether she, a little fish, can ride on the east wind and transform into a dragon in the future depends on how popular this live broadcast is by Ikuya Hano. You know, there is a real dragon in this live broadcast room. With this in mind, she clicked the live broadcast command. Suddenly the dark screen lit up, and the handsome host whose head had been changed began to sway on the screen holding a little dragon cub. And the moment Bai Xiaojiang clicked on the live broadcast authorization, he swiped and found that there were already 10 people in the live broadcast room. This speed of progress made Bai Xiao's eyes suddenly light up. This meant that these 10 people were either paying attention to the news in Ikuya Hano's live broadcast room, or they happened to be online after following him and came here. Take a look. No matter what it is, Ikuya Hano's live broadcast room is attracting traffic, especially the number of people entering the live broadcast room is still rising rapidly. Bai Xiao turned his attention away from the number of people in the live broadcast room and finally focused on the content of the live broadcast. Chapter 15. There is something wrong with this person's territory. Ha, it's you again. I saw your ID yesterday. Didn't you just say that the fool who was stabbed by the sword could understand the skill? I thought after what happened yesterday, you wouldn't dare to come again. Oh, you will know who the fool is in the future. And why don't I come? This anchor gave me a passive skill in the live broadcast room. I will leave it here. From now on, I will watch it every day. As soon as Bai Xiao entered the live broadcast room, he saw that yesterday's grievance situation had obviously not been resolved, and the dispute started again. As someone who has personally experienced sword thorns pricking her fingers, she naturally chooses to stand on the side of effectiveness. However, as the backstage manager of the live broadcast, she naturally cannot personally guide the direction of the live broadcast room, so she can only remain silent. The ground watched quietly. Fortunately, the debate about yesterday did not last long. Those who are willing to believe will naturally verify the effect of the sword spine, while those who are unwilling to believe will not practice it no matter what they say, even if others put the results in front of them. It's not over yet. Why are you still worrying about that little thing yesterday? Can you turn the page? Yes, I also want to see the anchor do other things. Don't let me do all these things and pollute the environment of the live broadcast room. Stop arguing, let's watch the live broadcast. Isn't there anyone as curious as me about what this, Ikuya Hano, territory is like? After the number of similar barrages increased, those who were still preparing to argue gradually calmed down and began to pay attention to today's live broadcast content. What else can I do? Suddenly, a user with the ID name, Barrage King, started his long introduction. It happened that the number of people in the live broadcast room was still gradually increasing at this time. There were not many people, and everyone watched him swipe the screen in tacit understanding. Generally speaking, after the player's territory of life type is built, there are three basic buildings: Lord's Hut, Time and Space Tavern, and Fence. As for the bulletin board, oh, it's just the leftover materials. Can it be called construction? For people like the aliens who have just started the game, most of them should be on the liver farm now. After all, you can support yourself with a farm. When the population of the territory increases, the farm will become more important. Barrage King talked eloquently. This is why, when we were browsing the live broadcast room recently, we could see Blue Star players either planting vegetables or spiritual plants in the soil, or warriors killing wild boars and small animals. Strange. At this time, if you are a druid extraordinary person, you will have an early advantage. They can frequently use natural spells to ripen the plants. Not only can they keep them for themselves to eat, but they can also trade them to players in other territories to obtain new income. Barrage King is a super fan himself. Although his talent is very poor, only F level, it is only slightly higher than F level, not much better. He didn't dare to join the Pioneer Corps and fight for it, so he had to constantly collect relevant information on the optical network. Compared to the vast majority of P-class citizens who have no idea about the extraordinary territory, he seems to be an expert. Of course, these are all regular starts. If it is an irregular start, there are many explanations. It depends on each person's awakened talent. Perhaps some gods level talents can do a lot of tricks at the beginning, but for most people, eating is still the first priority. If my prediction is correct, this anchor named Ikuya Hano will also start with planting farm. Along with his explanation, the live broadcast camera switched to Yuya's perspective, who was squatting in a corner and looking at the surrounding architectural environment, which was indeed around the planting farm. Barrage King immediately said quickly, "Look at what I said. It is indeed the normal starting mode. 666, I'm a novice and I understand everything. Does Mr. Danmaku want to publish a book? Update quickly, I won't be able to sleep at night." Seeing that he had hit the mark, people in the live broadcast room immediately cheered him very much. Excited by these words, Barrage King felt a little carried away and continued to speak. It seems like the anchor has nothing special except for being lucky at the beginning and having the talent to summon a dragon. His words immediately aroused condemnation in the live broadcast room. Listen, is this what someone said? I also want something not special like this. Let me see what my talent is. Oh, it's a P. That's okay. While there was a lively discussion in the live broadcast room, Yuyi finally took action. He squatted on the ground, his movements were not very elegant. He took small steps and poked his head inside. The little dragon cub was held in his arms and also moved. As if on tiptoe. One person and one dragon crouched furtively against a wooden stake and looked inside. This strange behavior naturally aroused the curiosity of the audience in the live broadcast room. What are you doing? Barrage King continued to explain. Can anyone tell me what he is looking at? That's good, I also want to know, is there anything that we can't see? Do we need to top up VIP? As soon as this barrage was posted, a congratulatory barrage flashed across the live broadcast room saying that XXX had recharged and became a VIP. It was the grumpy old man who had just posted a barrage of questions. I don't know if the Krypton Gold played a role. Anyway, after this barrage passed, the originally motionless live broadcast perspective suddenly began to change, switching to the same perspective as Yuno, making the thousands of viewers in the live broadcast room all he saw what Yuno saw. It's the scene where NPC Dave sprinkles pea shooter seeds. Wait a minute. Can anyone explain who this person is? If Ikuya Hano is the anchor, are these his territorial citizens? Does he then have a territorial population? Didn't anyone tell me what this new person planted? Why does that spiritual plant have eyes on it? But because of the cuteness, the anchor doesn't want to eat them, right? As soon as this perspective was switched, the live broadcast room became more lively, and water friends who originally didn't like to speak began to speak one after another. After all, the things in the territory of this anchor named Ikuya Hano are really something that has never been seen in other Outsiders and Pioneer Legions. Many people started to comment, hoping that this water friend who looks like a big boss can explain what the anchor wants to do. Barrage King, but at this moment, who am I, where am I, what am I doing? He is also very confused. He is not a so-called big boss. The development strategies for the Pioneer Legion can be found on the relevant extraordinary forums. He's a little F-level extraordinary person. Didn't he just move it and install a wall in the live broadcast room? Why did everyone come to him? But, to be honest, the feeling of being noticed by so many people is quite good. The Barrage King, sitting in front of the screen, touched his chin, pondered for a moment and then typed quickly. I understand. This player from another world must be the owner of a god-level talent. His talent must be the ability to summon creatures to help him build his territory. As soon as this statement came out, the Barrage interface instantly became quiet. Everyone wanted to see what kind of remarks the Barrage King could say. Chapter 16: The Explanation of the Barrage King. Yes, that must be the case. Otherwise, there is no way to explain how this anchor named Ikuya Hano recruited people in the first place. The Barrage King, sitting in front of the optical computer screen, was excited. The more he typed, the more excited he became. He felt that he might have noticed the truth of the matter. This is the owner of a god-level summoning talent. Everyone, think about it. This anchor had a baby dragon cub at the beginning. Is this a coincidence? Of course it could be a coincidence. If he happened to pick up a young earth dragon in the plane where he was born, and then the parents of this young dragon just happened to disappear, that would also be possible. But now he has a new character in his territory. This is definitely not a coincidence. Everyone knows that if you want to recruit people, you have to upgrade the Time and Space Tavern to 2 stars, or build a 1-star teleport hall, extraordinary building. And this anchor obviously does not have these 2 conditions, so there is only one possibility. That means this anchor has a god-level summoning talent. You can summon not only dragons, but also ordinary citizens who know how to plant. Barrage King typed the words very quickly, and a long list of conclusions flew through the live broadcast room instantly, which seemed very reasonable. Coincidentally, just when the Barrage King finished posting these barrages, in a small corner of the anchor's perspective, where the Time and Space Tavern was located, the door suddenly opened. A man with a bald head, a green vest, and melancholy eyes poured a failed drink at the door, and then slammed the door shut. Although this scene was not in the center of the main view, it was still seen by many fans in the live broadcast room, and screenshots were posted in the live broadcast room. Needless to say, the appearance of another character is the best evidence. Proof that Ikuya Hano has the top summoning talent. You must know that if the summoner profession wants to bind a partner, it must consume a lot of star power and spirit. Generally speaking, the number of partners that can be summoned at a level is extremely limited, and the number that can be summoned is the more. It proves how talented the summoner is. And now there are 2 humans and 1 dragon cub in Ikuya Hano's territory. If it wasn't summoned, how did it come about? As for how awesome its summoning talents are, it depends not only on the number of summons, but also on the time of summons. How many days does it take for a talent from another world to arrive in the boundless plane? Ikuya Hano, the time limit for this summoning talent is too short, right? Isn't this a proper god-level talent? What is it? As each piece of analysis was put in the live broadcast room with reasonable evidence, Barrage King took a long breath. It had been a long time since he had typed so smoothly. His hands were tapping quickly on the virtual screen of the optical computer. That kind of comfort is still fresh in your memory. Especially when the words typed in your hands are watched, understood, and appreciated by so many people, the sense of accomplishment that arises spontaneously is incomparable to anything else. 6. This, Barrage King, really has something, and the person who analyzed it is right. I think it's almost certain that this, Ikuya Hano, is a god-level talent holder. Originally, I was still confused, thinking that this anchor was like the kind of super family that stuffed money into Dawning system so that they could lead people to open up Wasteland. But I didn't expect that it turned out to be like this. I learned it. Let's learn the summoning skills now, and when I open up Wasteland, I can also summon some helpers to help me. Upstairs, why don't you wake up quickly? You have everything in your dream, right? This wave of praise in the live broadcast room made Bai Xiao think that this was the truth of the matter. The brother who had become the first VIP in the live broadcast room also made the first reward in the live broadcast room and gave away 66 little stars. At this moment, Yuya, who had been voyeuristically looking at them, finally made a new move. He tiptoed to the open space outside the territory, and reached out to touch the 5 sunflowers that had just been transplanted to the outside by NPC Dave. For a moment, the slightly squinting face of Sunflower seemed to have been scratched, and the smile on his face became even bigger. The golden light suddenly shone between Yuya's fingers, and it was warm, as if he was holding a small sun, full of thoughts. As soon as he moved, he held the little sun in his hands and walked towards the sword thorn fence on the side, and casually threw the little sun into the fence where the seeds had just been planted. The viewers in the live broadcast room were naturally curious about Ikuya Hano's operation and asked questions one after another. What kind of spiritual plant is this? It's not even in the database. Can the anchor upload new information? You're stupid. It's an unauthorized live broadcast now. Even your real face has been changed by the Sugan system. People don't even know it's live broadcast. How can they see your barrage and send you data? If you ask me, this is just the local spiritual plant he was born in. It's nothing special. Am I the only one who is curious about what he means by throwing that little dot of light into the fence next to him? Is this throwing away garbage? But soon, the audience who asked this question got the answer, because the sword spines that had just buried the seeds and had not fully grown yet sprouted and took root at an astonishing speed, and eventually spread into countless tiny sword-shaped leaves. Distributed around the fence, it becomes a solid and dangerous wall. Looking at this scene, a golden light flashed in the Barrage King's eyes, and inspiration surged out. He couldn't stop at all, and he started typing on the optical virtual keyboard again. Do you still remember Ikuya Hano's behavior of collecting sword thorn seeds yesterday? At that time, everyone in the live broadcast room thought that the anchor was stupid and that spiritual plants like Jianji were of no use at all. Barrage King licked his lips and continued to beat wildly, but now that you see this fence wrapped in sword spines, do you feel like you are being slapped in the face? Things that seem useless to you are actually turning waste into treasure in the hands of the host. Light energy, sword thorn seeds, fence. 3 different things are combined to create a special extraordinary building. I call it sword thorn fence. The resistance ability of this extraordinary building is not comparable to that of ordinary fences. Even the wild boars, the territorial killers of life players in the early stages, cannot bear the pain of being stabbed by sword thorns. Therefore, they will naturally avoid it on their own. Open, thus ensuring that the territory is not destroyed. Don't underestimate this little detail, it can often play a very important role. I know, someone must say it again. This is because Ikuya Hano's plane has flowers that condense light energy. If anyone else were in his plane, they would be able to do this, or even better. To deal with these gangsters, I just want to say that they have not seen the essence of the matter at all. Without light energy to ripen, these sword thorn seeds will not germinate on their own. Isn't this just a matter of time? The most important thing is this new and innovative idea, which is worth learning from. Also, I think this extraordinary building deserves a lot of promotion. Chapter 17 Wine Worth Millions. Bob's special tune of the day, Tears of Amber. Bite. Tears of Amber has been put on the shelves in all planes of the 5 nearby time and space nodes, and 798 customers have bid for it. Based on the highest bidder's offer. This transaction was successful. You have obtained 1,358,000 general gold coins. This. How much is this? The stunned Yuya finally understood how valuable the amber tears produced in his tavern were. The items traded this time really reflect this intuitively. He looked at the deposit balance on his Shuguang system interface, which was 1,358,500 gold coins. Well, the extra 500 gold coins are considered as the starting capital for the Pioneer Legion's extraordinary human territory. This money can be used to purchase things like spiritual plant seeds, spiritual beast cubs with various talents, skill scrolls, and even extraordinary buildings directly packaged with module technology from the system mall. Yi tried to search for the previous A-grade Fruit of Talent and the Earthly Dragon Cub from the Shuguang system mall, but could not find any relevant information. With the vastness of the 7 major human forces in the Federation, it is natural that there would be no information about these resources. The reason why Yuya could not search it was entirely because he did not have enough authority to purchase these high-value things. Yes, if you want to buy good things on the Sugan system, permissions are very important. Only high permissions will gradually open up different products to people who want to buy them. Are baby dragons rare enough? But if you put it on the scale of the Alliance's 7 superstar forces, with its vast coverage of the explored plain territory, you can naturally collect a lot. In other words, you can buy it if you have permission. In the same way, A-level talent fruits are considered rare, but if the power of the Alliance is exhausted, let alone A-level talent fruits. Someone might be able to assemble an orchard for you with an S-level talent fruit the size of a giant city. This is the foundation, this is the strength. If you want to obtain permission, you have to continuously increase your merit points. There are several main channels. 1. Throw money. Through charity and donations, you can get a lot of merit points by providing great support to the Alliance, providing humanitarian support to some poor areas under the Alliance, and leading them out of poverty. 2. Scientific research. As long as your brain is smart enough and excellent enough, you can develop technology that can be rated as Omega level by the Alliance Patent Office. Then, you don't have to worry about the merit points being high enough. Because Omega technology is a science and technology that can greatly promote or greatly improve the entire explored plane. How to evaluate it specifically? Generally speaking, the birth of every Omega technology can lead to an increase in the overall strength of the Alliance. 3. Military exploits. This is also the most common way to obtain merit points and increase privileges. As long as you join the Pioneer Legion, continue to resist the aggression of the hostile camp, and continue to kill enemy troops, you will be able to obtain a large number of meritorious deeds, and then gradually increase the authority of the Dawn system. It may seem cumbersome, but there are many ways for the Pioneer Corps to obtain military exploits. In addition to the most common ways of killing enemies, they can also discover and study new species, civilize indigenous humans, spread the fire of civilization, develop territory, and achieve relevant indicators of prosperity, etc. Can gain military exploits. But obviously, Yuya currently has nothing. Therefore, the mall permissions opened by the Shuguang system are still crap. Previously, Yi guessed that the actual value of the 2 items, Earth Walking Dragon and Talent Fruit, must be high, but he did not expect that they would be worth $1 million. This money came so suddenly, it felt like a lottery ticket suddenly opened in Blue Star in my previous life. No, Yi thought for a moment, these amber tears happen every day, which means he doesn't draw lottery tickets every day? Yi was delighted. With a huge amount of money in hand, he began to make purchases in the system mall. What he purchased now were all the supplies he urgently needed at the moment. Level 1 Spiritual Valley Seed, 50 silver coins per unit. Level 1 Spiritual Rice, 10 gold coins unit. It's simply too cheap. While others were still working hard to reclaim land for spiritual rice cultivation, Yuya had already purchased mature spiritual rice directly. Previously, Yuya was worried about the sudden change in the farm and didn't know where to get some food. Fortunately now, with the millions of gold coins in his account, he can eat one bag and throw another bag away, and he is far from finished. Of course, this is just an exaggeration. Yuya is still very economical with food. Yuyi didn't even look at it, he just scanned 1,000 units of spiritual rice, and then threw the bags of grain bags to Dave, who was still sunbathing on the recliner. Isn't it time to take the time to build a granary building? Scroll for expansion of level 1 building, 500 gold coins / expansion of 1 unit. As a great contributor to the territory, Yuya naturally couldn't treat Bob badly. Today's Time Tavern is too rundown and the area is too small. The appearance cannot be changed because the building level has not been upgraded, but the internal area can be expanded through Krypton Gold, module technology and space extension technology. Buy it. The bistro that originally occupied only 4 units has been instantly expanded to 20 units, which can accommodate more guests. But what's even more amazing is that its appearance still only occupies 4 units. Bob, who looked melancholy, was still wiping his wine glass, seemingly unaware of the changes in the surrounding environment. But for some reason, Yi always felt that the low pressure around him seemed to have slowed down a lot. Finally, Yuya turned his attention to the finished buildings packaged for sale in the System Mall. This kind of product that uses module technology no longer requires players to collect various resources, but can be directly opened, installed and used, which is very convenient. Moreover, many of these extraordinary buildings require specific professions to build, consuming the star power and magic patterns of that profession. But if it is a finished building that has been built and packaged by modular technology, then lifestyle players can buy it as long as they can afford it. Generally speaking, few people do this, because it's really not cost-effective. These purchased extraordinary buildings that are not compatible with one's profession will be very difficult to upgrade, transform, enchant, etc., unless there are dedicated followers of that profession at your disposal. For example, the level 1, Strength Totem Pole, Healing Totem Pole, Swift Totem Pole, and Petrified Totem Pole, these 4 major totem buildings are extraordinary buildings of the shaman profession. If players of other professions purchase them, can also play a role, but it is definitely not as powerful as in the hands of professional shaman players. This is because these extraordinary buildings can have a linkage effect with the skills and talents of the shaman profession, which is something that other extraordinary professions cannot do. Yuya's current occupation is architect. From a certain point of view, this is a life occupation. The real extraordinary occupation still has to be chosen from the 12 basic occupations in the Alliance. And this choice will determine the future development direction of Yuya. But Yuya is too lazy to make a choice now. Haven't you heard a word? Only children like to make choices, adults want it directly. Who told him he is a millionaire now? Moreover, the building empowerment talent he obtained from the A-level talent fruit is related to the number of extraordinary buildings in the territory, which itself requires a large number of buildings. Whether these extraordinary buildings have a linkage effect or not, it does not matter to Yuya at all. The 4 basic totem poles are the first level of the hunter profession, Arrow Tower, the first level of the mage profession, Mage Tower, the first level of the knight profession, Blessing Altar, and the first level of the shaman profession. Regardless of whether they were available or not, Yuya bought a set of all the ones he liked. Simply inhumane. Chapter 18 Teleportation Hall and Territory Population. Yuya bought a lot of module scrolls for level 1 buildings, but still didn't spend much money. He looked helplessly at the balance that was still over 1 million, and for the first time he felt that spending money was extremely difficult. It's not that there is nothing else to buy in the Shuguang Systems Mall, but that there are no supplies that Yuya urgently needs. It was impossible for him to really spend all the money. After all, amber tears could not be exchanged for funds every time. Yuya still had to keep some of it to guard against various possible problems. Level 1, Arrow Tower, was constructed successfully. Level 1, Mage Tower, was successfully constructed. Level 1, Blessing Altar, was constructed successfully. White lights lit up from the territory, and various war buildings were placed directly from the scrolls around the territory. There were more than 10 types of war buildings in total. The originally isolated territory was instantly defended like a swarm of stars, making it look very safe. This is the result of Yuya not looking carefully, otherwise there will definitely be more weird and extraordinary buildings to be discovered. But Yuya's attention at the moment is not on these war buildings, but on a level 1 general purpose building, teleport hall, that cost him a lot of gold coins. A huge investment of 100,000 star coins. Of course, this is a finished product made by modular technology, so it will be more expensive. If lifestyle players collect various raw materials and synthesize them step by step, it doesn't need to be so expensive. But what can be done? Yuya just has a lot of money now and no place to spend it. He is too lazy to accumulate various supplies and just relies on buying and buying. However, the Teleport Hall is an extraordinary building that any pioneer lord must build. The current building occupies 15 building grids, and it is also the largest building in Yuno's current territory. Only with the Teleport Hall can we truly have a channel to recruit slaves, people, foreign adventurers, travelers, etc. Otherwise, how can we transport a large number of people in a small place like the Time and Space Tavern? So, now the only difference is population. Yuya quickly walked into the Time and Space Tavern and made an offer to purchase 100 first-level human slaves in several nearby time and space nodes. Soon, there were offers from people nearby. In the end, Yuya settled on a price of 150 gold coins/person, and first purchased 100 first-level human slaves. In order to ensure the security of the territory, Yuya also spent 5,000 gold coins per person to buy 5 second-level human slaves. Not all of those participating in the quotation are human lords. There are many races in the Endless Plane, and creations like the Dawn system are not unique to humans. But there is no doubt that the races that possess such things are definitely the top races in the Endless Plane. For his first transaction with a foreign race, Yuya didn't have much psychological burden. This was an aspect that the extraordinary territory would have to deal with in the future, but sooner or later. The sharp whip drew an afterimage in mid-air and hit Mu Zhong's arm hard, leaving a dark red mark. Mu Zhong had long hair that had not been taken care of for a long time, his upper body was naked, and his eyes were red. Although the shadow of the whip hit his body, his feet seemed to be rooted and motionless. In front of him was a 2-3-meter tall wild boar man with a fat head and big ears. His mouth was dripping with saliva from time to time. He was wearing a weird leather skirt and a string of teeth from various beasts around his neck. Necklace. At this moment, the wild boar man was waving his whip like a herd of animals, driving Mu Zhong and a group of half-clothed humans towards a red altar. Mu Zhong was already very familiar with this scene. They are about to be sold as slaves to another new dimension again, and will be enslaved by another unknown lord. This group of humans came from an indigenous plane called Tianquan. After being conquered by the orcs, a large number of Tianquan humans were treated as trophies and divided into slaves under different orc lords. Mu Zhong was one of them. His lord is a greedy and lazy wild boar named Kuta. After consuming the heritage left by his ancestors, this wild boar lord has reached the point where he cannot make ends meet, so he has to start selling his slaves to relieve the pressure on his territory. Economic pressure. This time, it was the turn of Mu Zhong and this group of human slaves. As a rare second-level existence among slaves this time, he has seen the slave trade many times. There is no doubt that this is a life-threatening matter for slaves. Although the wild boar people are also very cruel, they will not eat people until they are really out of food. However, in some races such as Zerg and fungi, slaves of spiritual creatures are purchased purely for breeding. Every time you resell, you open a blind box. If you are lucky, you can continue to live. If you are not lucky, you will stop here and end your life as a slave. He did not think about escaping. As a slave, his soul was branded with the mark of the beast god. Under the law of plain will, he could not disobey the orders of the wild boar lord. After being sold to other lords, although the mark of the beast god will disappear, as a trading item, all slaves will be marked with a brand new mark belonging to the new owner. Mu Zhong was silent for a long time, watching the figures disappear into the altar one after another, and finally disappeared completely. He took a step forward and walked towards the depths of the altar step by step. A crimson light shone brightly in front of Mu Zhong's eyes, and he felt his soul suddenly lighten up. A totem shaped like a wild boar flashed away and turned into ashes. Then, a new mark emerged, turning into a contract mark and imprinting it on Mu Zhong's forehead. This feeling is. Humans. The one who bought their slaves was a human lord. Mu Zhong passed through the crimson light and walked out of a narrow door. What he saw was an empty hall. There were a lot of people in the hall. More than 100 slaves were crowded into the hall with only 15 units. The strong smell was mixed, making people unable to help but cover their mouths and noses. Outside the hall, Bob was diligently cleaning wooden wine glasses at the door of the pub. A more courageous slave tried to come forward to talk to Bob, but was rejected and thrown out with a look of disgust. The peaceful and warm sunshine shines on the dirty slaves through the open door of the teleport hall, and there is a green world outside. Mu Zhong walked past the slaves in front of him in a daze and looked at the scenery outside the house. How long hadn't he seen this green? In Kuta's territory, as slaves, they often live in dark mines, and their daily food is half a moldy and sour black bread. When all the slaves saw that Bob, who was cleaning the wine glasses outside the tavern, was a human being like them, they hugged each other with tears of joy. Even if the future human masters may not be kind, at least they no longer have to face pig-headed faces that keep spitting out their saliva all day long. Mu Zhong closed his eyes and breathed in the air of this new dimension. The rich and abundant star power condensed in the mid-air. The veins in his body that had dried up for a long time were like a fish that was dying on the shore suddenly felt the sweet rain and suddenly became alive. As a second-level warrior, he had not felt such a strong aura of star power for a long time. In the plains occupied by the orc tribes will set up various totems and altars, and by offering sacrifices to the beast gods, the plain will be transformed into a star power trait that is more suitable for the orcs. That kind of star power has a strong manic and wild atmosphere. After long-term absorption by humans, it will cause certain damage to the body. But now, the warm and peaceful star power is slowly repairing the damaged veins, and his strength is quickly returning to its former peak. There were 4 others who made the same move as Mu Zhong. The star power around these 3 men and 1 woman poured in like whales sucking in, and the auras on their bodies gradually became stronger. For a second-level transcendent, the 6-dimensional attribute value can reach a peak of 60 points. Although the past few days are far from reaching this peak, the movement is definitely not comparable to first-order humans. After a long while, Mu Zhong finished his star power operation without any hesitation. Because there was a burst of movement outside the house, the lord of this territory appeared. Chapter 19, Language Proficiency, Skill Scroll. Yuya walked out of his hut and saw skinny men with disheveled hair and ragged clothes walking out of the door of the tavern. Their complexions were sallow, their eyes were sunken, and their exposed skin had obvious dark whip marks on them. It was obvious that they had suffered inhuman treatment. Yuyi looked at the scene in front of him with some shock. He had seen some cruel and horrific historical pictures in Blue Star, describing the sufferings in human history, but just when he saw the so-called slaves, it was time to walk in front of him. Only then did he realize that those old photos that so-called recorded history could not describe the shocking feeling of witnessing it with his own eyes even 1/10 of the way. Sensing the change in his master's mood, the little dragon cub let out a cry in an attempt to attract Yu Ye's attention. On the other side, Mu Zhong was shocked when he saw the neatly dressed and handsome young man opposite. In the Tianquan Plain, a young man of this age should still be learning star power in school, but in fact, the imprint on his soul told him that this young man was truly his lord. He took the lead and squatted down, performed the oldest and most noble etiquette in the Tianquan Plain, and asked, "Sir, what do you want us to do?" Yuya watched with confused eyes as the nearly 2-meter-tall man in front of him squatted down, put the back of his hands on the ground, performed 3 courtesy gestures in succession, and then kissed the ground in front of his feet, uttering a series of weird syllables. He roughly understood that the other party was saluting him, but he couldn't understand what he was talking about at all. Then, he frowned and summoned the virtual panel, clicked into Shuguang Mall, and opened an interface. Item name, Language Proficiency, Skill Scroll. Prop type, Scroll type. Item description, Language Skill Scroll. After learning proficiency, you can quickly acquire the skill, Language Proficiency LV1. This skill can help users quickly master various simple levels of language, and this skill can be used after consuming a large amount of star power. No intelligent life outside of ourselves understands language at a simple level. Each time it is given to others to use, 500 star power points are consumed. Item price, 10,000 gold coins. Yuya bought 2 scrolls and learned to use one himself, while giving the other to Mu Zhong to use. After learning the skill scroll of language proficiency, Yuya finally understood that these people spoke Tianquan language, which is a human language in a small plane and is not within the scope of the Shuguang system language library. After Yuya learned this complex multisyllable language, he decisively decided to let these slaves learn Chinese. As a citizen of his territory, how could he not speak Chinese? This is why he bought 2 scrolls of language knowledge. After letting Mu Zhong learn the language, let him go and teach these Tianquan humans one by one. Mu Zhong watched this young handsome boy playing with something like a scroll and tearing it open at himself. He subconsciously raised his arms to defend himself. But to his surprise, the torn scroll turned into a milky white light and illuminated him, and a large amount of knowledge seemed to be poured into his brain. The words spoken by the leader in front of him were suddenly able to correspond to the square fonts that he had never seen before, but seemed to possess mysterious magic power. Not only that, he relied on his memory to recall several remote and difficult dialects in the Tianquan plain when he was a child. The originally difficult sentences suddenly became smoother, and even the wild boar people's humming and incomprehensible words, he can probably understand the cry now. What an amazing ability this is! Many, thank you, master. Mu Zhong opened his mouth and tried to speak the language he heard for the first time. It has few syllables but deep meaning. Just a few words can describe the meaning of Tianquan dialect that requires a series of words to describe. Yu Yi nodded to him and continued, "You first civilize these people's language, and then let them take a bath in batches. There is a river outside the territory. By the way, although you are my slaves, you don't need to call me master, just call me lord. As long as you are willing to obey the command and work hard to complete the task, one day I will remove the slave contract from you." Mu Zhong listened to such a long list of words at once, and he seemed to understand a little. When he fully understood, his expression suddenly became excited. He knelt on the ground again, performed the highest Tianquan etiquette, and finally used a much more skilled said in Chinese, "Thank you for your gift, Lord." Yu Yi nodded and no longer cared about the movements of these people. He believed that Mu Zhong, as a second-level warrior, would be able to manage these people well. Yuya opened the group chat interface, and the operation to eliminate the goblins related to Mountain Farmer has come to an end. In order to ensure that all goblins can be completely wiped out, Mountain Farmer recruited 4 combat players at once and conducted a simple meeting through the time and space tavern. This is also the first time that players in the group have conducted offline gay activities, which naturally caused a craze. While Yu Yi was watching the chat in the group and having S*X, Bai Xiao was almost smiling from ear to ear as he looked at the heat in the live broadcast room, which seemed to be on a rocket and was about to soar to the sky. She really didn't expect that she was so lucky that she could pick up such a big treasure. Originally, the live broadcast room was still discussing in detail whether Ikuya Hano was a god-level summoning talent at the beginning, but as soon as the screen turned, the anchor began to unfold module packages one by one in the open space of his territory, and put them one by one. Level 1 buildings of different extraordinary professions are randomly arranged around the territory. There is no sense of beauty at all, and it looks extremely messy, almost driving some viewers with obsessive-compulsive disorder and misophobia to death. But none of these things matter. Isn't the point why this anchor has so many gold coins to buy these modular buildings? Is this a secret backdoor for Sugan's system? As an audience in the live broadcast room, naturally you cannot see Yuya's Shuguang system operation. After all, this system interface can be considered part of key privacy. Therefore, no one in the live broadcast room knows anything about that million-dollar wine. They could only see the anchor who was squatting there peeping just now, suddenly turned around and took out one big treasure after another. This time, the audience in the live broadcast room must be kept in a trap. As a result, the crowd began to call out to the big boss in the Barrage King, asking him to come and analyze what exactly this operation was. Chapter 20. Look, doesn't this explain it? The Barrage King was sitting in front of the optical brain, looking at Ikuya Hano in the video as if he was cheating, and he quickly took out the first-level extraordinary buildings from the Dawn system one after another. They were randomly placed around the territory as if they were free of charge. It has to be said that this anchor has very poor aesthetics and is in urgent need of a talent who can plan the territory. His current arrangement is really a waste. For example, the level 1 arrow tower and the level 1 mage can be placed slightly closer. The attack range of both is 1000 units. They could have taken care of each other and acted as horns for each other. When the enemy camp attacked the city, they would suppress fire. Look at the anchors placed, one in the east and one in the west. The coverage seems to be larger, but the firepower is insufficient. Brother, you have to study hard. Thinking like this, Barrage King quickly typed this series of thoughts on the public screen. Sure enough, he received another wave of praise and applause. It was obvious that his barrage was meaningful and not just a casual analysis. After all, he is the Barrage King, not the King of Strong Mouth. At Danmaku King, don't just talk about whether the distribution of this extraordinary building is reasonable. Tell me why he can have so much money to buy modular buildings? Yes, that's right. I just did a rough calculation on the dozens of level 1 module buildings he just bought, and they have already spent nearly 200,000 gold coins. Just one, teleport hall, is huge. It costs 100,000 gold coins. Holy crap, teleport hall? New viewers, can you ask why this anchor can have so many extraordinary buildings in his territory? Is it just because he is handsome? Don't be embarrassed. How can an AI face change compare to my wild brother's 1/10,000th beauty? This is the super invincible pretty boy in the universe with a face so pale that he can draw a dragon cub. It's related to other places again. I want to know if this is a bug. For example, when a rich person in our Klein plane transferred money, he accidentally transferred the wrong account and hit this anchor. Account. Not to mention, this is completely possible, especially for money laundering on the optical network. There will always be large amounts of money flowing silently between various accounts. It is not impossible for any link in the middle to go wrong. Since this statement was put forward, many people have believed it. Otherwise, there is no way to explain how a visitor from another world can spend 200,000 gold coins at will when other people from other worlds only have an initial capital of 500 gold coins. Even Bai Xiao, who had been paying attention to the background, felt that this was probably the correct answer. But she obviously didn't expect that in just 30 seconds after the news was posted on the public screen, she received 4 or 5 reports and complaints at the same time. It was obvious that someone with some jealousy or evil intentions had initiated the reporting function overnight. But they are doomed to fail. There is only one response from the Dawn system that they can get. All amounts of this user are normal transactions, and there is no situation described in the report content. If you are disbelieving and want to report repeatedly, the reporter may be locked up in a black room for reasons such as harassing the system and malicious reporting. When someone posted this screenshot to the public screen of the live broadcast room, those suspicious voices suddenly disappeared. After all, judging by the Dawn system as the supreme intelligent creation of the human alliance, Ikuya Hano's funds are normal, that means the funds are normal. No one would stupidly ask whether there was an error in the system, or whether the system failed to detect it. This is a relatively stupid question. So, Ikuya Hano, where did this extraordinary principle come from? Thousands of people in the live broadcast room are all hoping that Barrage King can give a standard answer. After all, with the previous foreshadowing, it has also gained some popularity in the live broadcast room. People who know him usually call him Big Brother. New viewers who don't know him will listen to his explanation obediently like a newbie. Barrage King felt a slight pressure. This was the first time he was urged by so many people to post a message. However, he is just an ordinary spectator. He didn't know what kind of trick Yui had done to make so much money. Barrage King is thinking hard about how a life player who has just established a transcendent realm for a few days can make so much money. First, produce materials. This is the first thing to rule out. If it is a mature territory, this production material will be the main source of the territory's funds. However, this is only an extraordinary territory that has only been open for a few days. It has no output at all and needs to increase investment. Second, scientific research results. This is a possible option. After all, there are big rewards for discovering new species and new resources, but these rewards have a certain period of evaluation, and these generous rewards must be linked to scientific research, that is, not only discovery for new species and new minerals, we need to understand how they were formed, what role they currently play in the Federation, and whether they can be domesticated/collected. What follows is the real highlight, but it is obvious that these scientific researches are by no means something that the crude extraordinary territory can do. This one can also be excluded. Then what is left is the only answer. Barrage King's eyes lit up, and his chubby little hands began to tap rapidly in the virtual light brain. Family members. After thinking hard, we finally came up with the only possibility. That means, Ikuya Hano earned this money by relying on his talent. Family members, it is known that the anchor has a god-level summoning talent and has summoned a dragon and 2 followers. But who stipulates that summoners cannot summon items or resources? As long as Ikuya Hano summons a very valuable material at will, recycles it and sells it to the Dawn system, he can naturally get a lot of gold coins. Everyone was blinded by these 200,000 coins. It feels like the anchor bought so many extraordinary buildings all at once, and his psychology was instantly a little unbalanced. Little did we know that we have seen something more valuable before. That's right, I'm talking about that little dragon cub. Does anyone know how much this kind of earth-walking dragon cub sells for? It starts at least 1 million gold coins. This anchor even lets a dragon cub worth 1 million gold coins hit a tree and get stabbed by a sword. Tell me, is he reasonable? Now take out a 200,000 gold coin, that's a basic thing, okay? The King of Danmaku is indeed the King of Danmaku. He quickly brought back the rhythm of the live broadcast room, and his logic is completely self-consistent and does not look like he made it up at all. When he said this, many viewers in the live broadcast room suddenly realized. That's right. We've all seen more valuable ones, and now we're still questioning this 20W? This live broadcast room is not outrageous only from now on, but it has been outrageous from the beginning. You are listening to it in Eugene Light Novels.